Going live. Let's see. You are live. Stream health. Excellent connection. Stream is healthy. Blah, blah, blah. Okay, so it worked. So last time I did a live stream, folks. Let me bring up the YouTube interface and let me see if I can make myself smaller for a second. And maybe I can put this down. So hopefully you can see this button over here. There is this go live button, and now it says end stream, of course. So last time I did the stream, I didn't click on this button and I was talking on my own for like 45 minutes, whereas this time, hopefully, I am doing it right. I don't know if you can still see it actually. Maybe if I bring, anyway, there is a button here, folks. And anyway, the point is that I am doing it correctly this time. So let me bring up OBS. Let me make my image there a bit larger, the picture. Let's do it like this. So that's good. Hello, everybody. So this time I am starting on time. Last time I was here on time as well, but due to that complication, I started later than I had anticipated. So thanks to the people in the chat. Hello to everybody. We have Iurko. So hello to you, Patrick, Mester Gui. Yeah, I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that correctly. Lasse Kleiman. Audio is there, but could be louder. Let's work on that then. Let's see here. So probably it's this. Let's see. Probably now it is louder. I basically doubled it, but I can check also here. Let's see. Yeah, it's 81%. So maybe that's good. So let's see. The idea with this stream, folks, as usual, is to basically do an ask me anything sort of thing, where you get to ask me about anything related to the stuff I do, like Emacs and what I publish on my website, and I am happy to talk about it. Okay, great, great, great. Very well, very well. So thank you about that. Just to say, before we even get started, that recently, I believe like a couple of weeks ago, but I'm not sure, maybe 3 weeks ago, I published this short book on Emacs Lisp called Emacs Lisp Elements. It's a book that is about the programming language, so Emacs Lisp, and basically gives you a big picture view of the language. By the way, I don't know where I should be looking. I always get confused about this. So it gives you a big picture view of the language, and the book is free of charge, free software as well, free documentation, all of that. So you can just find it on my website and you can take it from there. I forget now the exact link, but I will just put it here. I believe it is this. So let me write here, protesilaos.com, then Emacs, and then Emacs Lisp Elements. Yeah, it has to be this one. So it's that. And the idea is that you can read it and you can find there a link to the source code, the source of this project. It's an org file, the source file, and you can use that. So you can view the org file inside of Emacs. And if you want, you can also evaluate the code blocks, those that have actual code, because some have just pseudocode, and you can sort of take it from there. If you have the org file, you can also export it to some other format which makes it easier for you to read, such as you may prefer to have it as a PDF. There was this one person who somehow, I don't know how exactly, converted it into an EPUB format that they got on their EPUB reader, but me, I haven't gone down that rabbit hole, so I don't know how it works. So there is that. But anyway, if you have any questions about that book, if you have checked it out, then I'm happy to answer them. The other thing to just say is that I started earlier today working on a new Emacs package. And this package is theme related. And the idea is that I want to create some minimalist themes. And they will rely mostly on typography, variations in typographic features in particular, and they will use few colors. The project is already in a very good state. All I need to do is basically cover more faces. Like I have already written the macro, the Emacs Lisp macro that will expand into the actual theme. And I have done the infrastructure work. And now I just need to basically add more faces like, oh, how should an org to do look? It should look like that. So it goes there. How should for example, a keyword in a programming language look. So it should go in that other place instead. This is the idea. So I just need to do that final piece of work, and then I will publish it. Depending on when I am done with the stream, I will publish the package, the source code actually, later today. Otherwise, I will do it tomorrow. Of course, the source code and the package are not the same thing. Like the source code will be available as soon as I publish it, but the package will have to be registered on GNU-ELPA, the GNU-ELPA archive, and I will just take some time to do that. I think it takes like 2 days for the registry to happen, the registration to happen. So yeah, that's not up to me. That's how the machinery works over there. So yeah, that is fine. This is the idea. I have actually, if you want, I could show you, since we don't have any questions yet. So I can show you a little bit of, actually, let me, no, I won't tell you how the package is called yet. So that is a little surprise for tomorrow. But here is the idea, folks, and we can make it large. And let's go and see a little bit. So you can see already, this is one of the themes. There are many themes. This is one of the themes, and you will see that basically there are very few colors, and it's technically not monochrome, right? There are colors, so mostly it's gradients, but sometimes there will be different colors as well. So you get that too. Let's see how a code block will look. This is a code block. It's still a work in progress, actually. I'm not sure if I prefer this for the code block delimiting lines, or if I would like to have something less intense there. I haven't made up my mind about that specific element, but you will see, for example, how the links look. You will see how keywords look. Here is the headings. You will notice that headings level 1 and headings level 2 and so on. Basically, they look the same. The only difference is with the number of asterisks that they have, and this is the idea. And maybe we can see some code. Let's see. Here is again some code. You see, you also see the active region. This is the idea. If I do, let's do some completion. For example, I can do like package install. Let's see what we have here. Inst like that. And we see here how completion matches are shown. This is the idea. If I do, for example, I'm trying to think of a package that has key bindings. You see how a key binding will look over there. Maybe I could use org for a better example, actually. And you see over there, there are the key bindings as displayed by the marginalia package. And this is the idea. I already have, actually, let me show you the diffs, because the diffs are always tricky to get right. So we will see. Let's produce a diff. No, this is too small. Let's find another diff. Of course, now my screen is limited in what I'm showing. So let me see. Okay, 17 deletions. This looks fine. So this still is a work in progress. This gray header, I don't like it, so that will change. And here we see the red lines, sort of red, and the green lines. So there is that. If I do the word-wise diffs, I get to see which are the highlights. So it's that it shows here. This is the idea, folks. And I will publish this package as soon as I can, as I said, maybe later today or tomorrow. So there is that. Let's bring this down. So yeah, thank you, thank you. Right now, the collection consists of 4 themes, but because I don't want to show you the name of the package, I cannot actually load the themes unless I can think of some smart way to do this. Because of course it's not really a secret, but let's see. How could I do this? I cannot think of something. If I have it like there, it's off screen enough. And maybe I type and hope for the best. Let's see. So it's important that you don't see though. Let's see. Let's see if we can make this work, folks. And like this. So let's produce another theme. Sorry, another frame. And let's do this. And so this is the other theme, the other light theme in particular. Come back here. So you see here the light theme. Let me show the 2 mode lines. This is the idea. This is the active mode line. You see the inactive mode line, how it is grayer. You see this sort of thing. And of course, if you have used any of my other themes, you know that I always pay attention to details. So for example, a detail is like when you are on a line and the line is highlighted and you also have the highlight of the matching parentheses that you can still see the parentheses. If you do a region, you can still see the region and the highlighted line, these sorts of things. So I pay attention to that. Let me now load one of the dark themes, which I think is a thing of beauty. This is one of the dark themes. And actually, I should also have a DRED buffer over there, and you get to see kind of what it is. Of course, I am teasing you now because I want to do the announcement and that whole thing. But yeah, you get the idea how it looks. And let me load the last theme there. And this is the other theme, the other dark theme, and it's like that. So there is that, and let me just load the one I started out with, and here is the idea. So yeah, I think that will be nice, and I'm happy to work on it and show you how it looks. Hello, Raul. Nice to talk to you. So thank you. And hello, TXB to you too. We don't have any questions, folks. So I don't know what I should do now. Maybe I can show you more of the theme. Maybe I can go show you. One second now, because I need to pick the correct frame. Actually, let me just make my image here a little bit smaller. And let's also make this here. So, of course, if there are no questions, we will improvise, so no worries. No problem, no stress. Let's have it like this. Okay, so then there is the idea. Okay, so let me show you more of the theme. Let's go look at some code. Oh, I have to focus the frame here. Let's see, what should I look at? Let's see. So here is some programming code. This is the idea. Maybe I can make it a little bit larger. Or you know what? I will make the font a little bit smaller. So of course, you don't need to actually be able to read it. It's mostly to get an impression. And here is the idea. As I said, I'm still finalizing the details. I still need to cover some faces. As I said, this is the most important part. So that I will work on, and you get the idea. Of course, it's not a theme for everybody, right? So it's designed to be minimalist. That's the whole point of it. If you want a maximalist style, you will use, for example, my F themes. If you want something in the middle, you will use the modus themes. That's basically the idea. And yeah, we see it. And of course, I will show you the other. Let me see. Here we have a variable and also a function and some comments and okay, so here we get to see a little bit of everything. So let me then bring up that other frame. Where do I have it? And let me load all the themes one by one so that we see them. Let me actually have it like this. And this is the other light theme. You get to see it. Yeah, there it is. I think all of them look beautiful to my eyes. I cannot actually pick one, so that's why I designed four. So there is that. Let's load another one. Let's do this one. And here it is. I think this looks really nice. Um, Very interesting color scheme over there. And the last of the set, which is this one. And here we have it, folks. And this is the idea. And actually, as I am now seeing this, the blue here for the matching parentheses or the green of the line highlight need to be tweaked a bit because they don't play nice together. So that I have to do. This is the kind of work that you have to do to have a good theme. So yeah, that's the idea. Let's see, where are we? So MVM44 asks, hello Prot, do you own the land under your home and garden? The answer is yes. So I acquired the land and then I came in to do whatever I had to do here. When I came in, folks, here the first time, like it was like the wilderness. Like there was vegetation taller than me. It was like up here, and it was thick. It was really dense. It was you couldn't see the other side of the land, and it was full of mosquitoes, full of serpents, rats, everything. It was kind of intimidating. Like when I first got here, I was like, what am I getting myself into? This doesn't look like a good idea. But yeah, I had to do the work, and eventually I am here, and things are better than they were before. Of course, I still have a lot of work to do. Right outside, there is still the wilderness. Like, I haven't paved the ground, I haven't done any kind of civil engineering kind of infrastructure work around the area. It's all manual labor, and this means that the place still looks kind of in the wilderness, as it were. So of course it is a built-up area in the sense that there is a house, there is a person living here, that sort of thing. But right outside there is vegetation, like it's growing all around here, and I continuously take care to keep the area clear, to make sure that there is no dry grass right outside, which is a fire hazard, and also a place where vipers could hide. So I want to have that clear. Plus, I continue to do all the work I have to do. The flood control project is a big one, a really big one. It's super important. So I am doing that, and I am also doing some farming, some gardening, and I hope to grow veggies and have something to eat. But it's mostly for fun. I mostly do it because it's good mentally, good physically, and also it's good for the land as well, so that there is something there instead of it being just wild. So Graham says, Prod, you have a great eye for aesthetics. Do you paint or draw? The answer is no, I don't. When I was a kid, here is a story. When I was a kid, I would draw, like I believe all kids do that, or at least they try. So when I was a kid, I once drew this on this large piece of carton. And by the way, sorry, let me enlarge my picture now so that it's easier for you to see me. And if we need to go back to Emacs, we can do that, so no problem. Let me just minimize and let me actually delete the picture, the thing there. So I drew on a large piece of carton. It was like, you get the idea, a piece of carton like this. And what I drew there was a river, and on one side of the river there was a house, and behind the house there was like a forest, and in the distance there was like a mountain, and there was the sun at the top. Of course, it wasn't really with perspective and all that, but basically the concept. And on the other side of the river there was a lion, and there was all these animals. And one of my relatives saw that and was like, "Oh, Prod, you will be a good painter." And another relative was like, "No, no, this looks more like the kind of work you do when you just want to have, how is it called? The city planning kind of thing. It's more like an architect's sort of work. So it's less aesthetics and more structure, more organization kind of thing." But yeah, of course, aesthetics is something that maybe I have an eye for because of my exposure to the land all around. Like, if I just minimize here for a little bit, you see, for example, what is my wallpaper. Like, this is in the mountains here. So because I see these natural settings, I have like imprinted through the impressions, imprinted in me basically color schemes. Like, I see, like right outside, there is, for example, a light brown color combined with a dark green and a little bit of yellow. And already, if you put these together in the right combination, you have like a decent color scheme. It's already there. And now, as I am looking, right below, there is a more bright, a more vivid kind of green. So again, you can just follow nature, and basically, you are producing something decent. This is the idea, anyway. Mester asks, what is the more important thing that you think you achieve using, and what is the point of tour configuration? You say, I understand that. I'm not sure I follow what you are trying to say, so I will try to reword it, and hopefully I will understand it and I will answer. Um, Using, what is the most important thing, the more important thing that you think you achieve using, and what is the point of tour configuration? I think I am not understanding, so I would like to answer, but I will probably say something completely unrelated. So I will skip that, and let's see. Maybe you can ask two questions, because you have an "and" there, and I think that is what is confusing me right now. So if you can split this into two questions, then I'm happy to comment. How are your dogs doing? Asks Patrick. I don't know if you ever talked about it, but what is their story? So the dogs are doing well. I have two dogs. One is called Atlas, the other is called Raizu. So both of them are doing well. Atlas is right there sleeping, and Raizu is probably there. I cannot see him from this angle, but usually he's right there. So they are doing well. This hour is their sleeping time. It's fairly warm outside, and we went for a walk earlier, and they got the chance to expend their energy, which is great. What I generally say is that a good dog is a tired dog. Okay. And this is because if you don't provide an outlet for dogs to expend their energy, then they grow restless. Then they become upset. Then they are like I need to do something. I should be doing something. And they will then chew on your shoes. They will destroy your furniture, the couch, or whatever it is you have. Like they will become more agitated, more aggressive, more annoyed. Not because they are aggressive, but because they don't have a way to express all that energy they have inside of them. For dogs, it's really important to expend energy physically, but also to have their brain do some work. And one way that they do that naturally is by sniffing around. Because when they sniff, they actually focus. You have to think of scent, the sense of scent, the way we have our brain. Like there are all these ideas and all these thoughts going on, and there are stimuli coming from the ear and the eye and all that. But we choose to focus on something and we concentrate. And basically, the dogs do the same. Like there are all these smells around, but they take a certain scent and they follow it. And this is basically their way of concentrating. So it's important for a dog to be able to do that. It keeps them sharp, it keeps them calm, and that's really good for them. About their story, I adopted Raju. I used to take care of him in the area where I lived before coming to this place. And eventually, I adopted him because I was taking care of him on a daily basis. And basically, the owner couldn't handle this type of dog, so I took over. Atlas is, I will tell you about the backstory of Atlas, but first, Atlas is a mixed breed between an American Pit Bull Terrier and a German Shepherd dog. And basically, this means that he is a big and athletic dog. Okay. And Raiju is also an athletic dog. I don't know what his lineage is exactly, but he is a scent hound type of dog, clearly. So he is a hunting dog and he needs a lot of activity. For me, that's great because that's what we do. But for somebody who is not prepared to handle an athletic dog, it's basically a nightmare because you're like, you know what, I want to just relax, sit on the couch, take it easy. And the dog is just jumping around and wants to go running up and down the mountains. So, of course, there is incompatibility there. Whereas with me, Raizu, and with his friend Atlas, basically he found his match and it's good. The story of Atlas, the backstory of Atlas is before Atlas, I had another dog who died. And after a period where I recovered, I was like, I need another dog. So I want to have another dog and I must do that. The previous dog I had was a small dog, like really small. And I was like, you know what? I don't want a small dog. I need a large dog and I need a dog that will be intense. So, on purpose, I wanted a really intense dog to basically be my match. This is the idea. And I searched the ads, and there was this girl who had a female dog, a pit bull, Atlas's mother, and this pit bull got pregnant, and it wasn't planned, but of course it happens. And this girl didn't know what to do, and she didn't want to keep the puppies, so she was giving them away for free. And the only condition was that you come and pick up the puppy. That was the idea. And then, of course, you do what you have to do with the vet. So I went there and I saw all the puppies. And when I was there, it was like 7 puppies, I think, or 8, I'm not sure. When I was there, I was eyeing one of Atlas's brothers, and it was a dog that was extremely good looking. Like he was black and white, and one side of his head was black, and there was a patch which was white, and his eye color was almost purple, sorry, almost orange. And I was like, wow, this is striking. This is really, really intense. And I was observing this other dog, and I was like, yeah, this is the dog I will get. So I was about to tell the girl that, yeah, this is the dog I will get, and off we go. And I started noticing this other dog who was beating up all of his siblings. So he was, they were play fighting, and he would beat everybody up. And I was like, okay, who is this guy? And of course, it was Atlas. And I noticed that he was the most aggressive. So I'm like, okay, this is why I'm here. I want the most intense. And then I was now split. I was now thinking like maybe I will get the other dog or I will get Atlas. But what tilted it for me was as I was talking to the girl about something she asked me, I didn't pay attention to the dogs for a second. And then Atlas walked up to me and stood on his hind legs and placed his forelegs on my knee. Okay. So basically, he came to me. And he was looking at me straight in the eyes, puppy eyes and all that. And I looked at him and I was like, yeah, of course, this is the dog I will get because he is the one that just picked me. So first I was in doubt, now I am not. So he picked me and here we are. The thing is, and this is good advice actually, the thing is, if you ever go to pick a puppy, you want to make sure that you don't pick the most intense puppy out of the litter unless you really know what you are doing. You want to pick a puppy that is not too shy but also not too assertive, because if you are not experienced, you are in for trouble at both ends of the extreme. You want a dog somewhere in the middle. But in my case, I had a very specific requirement, so Atlas was perfect for what I wanted. And he has been with me ever since. So now he is 9 years old. When I got him, he was like 2 months old. So basically, that is the idea. And it's really nice. And the dogs are amazing for me. Yeah, dogs are really special. Anyway, let's continue. I talked a lot about this. So hopefully I answered it fully. TXB asks, Prot, do you do meditation? Or how would you recommend one gets to understand oneself better? The short answer is no. The long answer is yes, but, and I will tell you. Many years ago, when I first got this notion of meditation, I used to live in Brussels, Belgium. And I was working at the European Parliament. I was doing basically an office job. And at some point, I felt this uneasiness. There was something there that wasn't right. I was unsettled, but it was elusive. I couldn't actually say what it was. Like something is not right, but I cannot say what. And basically, I was looking around, exploring, and there was this colleague of mine who was doing yoga at the time, and was like, "Hey, Prot, let's do some meditation. Let's do these Eastern practices of mindfulness and all that." And I was like, "Yeah, sure, let's try." And I tried for a short time, and I realized that for me it wouldn't work. And the reason it wouldn't work is to connect to what I was saying earlier about dogs needing an outlet, is that basically I had too much energy. Like I couldn't calm down. Like I would need to do something that is physically more vigorous, more intense, more expensive in terms of the energy it requires. So for me, it wasn't like, oh, you know what, I will just sit there, because I was like, oh, I need to do stuff. Of course, I'm exaggerating now for effect, but I wasn't actually doing that. But basically, to say that I wasn't feeling that I can do that kind of thing. For me to calm down, I needed to combine it with something physical. And what I eventually discovered through trials and errors is walks, long walks. A walk is not as intense as a sprint or as a jog. You go at a slower pace, a pace that is natural, a pace that is the pace that your body can sustain for the most amount of time, but it is still a form of exercise, okay? And so you are expending energy. But because it is not intense, it also allows you to commit part of your energy to whatever it is you are thinking about, or to not think about anything in particular. Like you can let go, and thus you can find yourself in the process. But for me, it's not about finding yourself by only looking inside. For me, it's finding yourself also by understanding your world. Like, I don't think you can understand yourself in a vacuum because you don't exist in a vacuum. There is an environment, there is an environing world. And of course, this world is our physical environment, it is the people that are around us, it is the culture, it is the ideas that we have from the culture and all that. So basically, you want to understand your milieu, you want to understand your place in the space. This is the idea. And this understanding is, of course, relative, right? It won't be absolute because you don't have the God's eye view, as it were, of the situation. You have your own perspective and you see everything from that. This is what I still do. I don't do meditation in the conventional sense. I do this long walks, which of course combine also nicely with me taking my dogs for a walk. But it is also what keeps me calm and what allows me to think things through, reflect on what I am considering, and also it allows me something else, which maybe I have talked before, but maybe I have only done it in private. It helps me weed out ideas that I don't actually need. And this also connects to technology. Like we are now in an era where we have all the tools we need to quickly, almost effortlessly capture information. Like you have an idea, you hit a button and you capture it, okay? And it is filed somewhere. This can be with Emacs, it can be with your phone, you do like an audio recording, it can be with, I don't know, whatever, right? Like a bookmark, you click a button and it does a bookmark, all that. We have ways to quickly capture information. But not all information is actually something we need. What I do instead is this. When I go for a walk, an idea pops to mind. They always do, right? Like basically the mind is like a fountain and it is never going to be depleted. It is inexhaustible. And from that fountain spring all sorts of thoughts. So an idea springs to mind, okay? And I will consider it, but I won't capture it anywhere. And I'm like, okay, if this idea resurfaces, then it is sticky. Then I need to think about it more seriously, and then I will commit to it. I will do something depending on what it is. If it is just a fleeting thought, then why do I need to keep fleeting thoughts? Of course, unless it's some appointment or something. But now I'm talking about matters of reflection, right? We are now talking about understanding yourself better and that sort of thing. So if it's an idea that would have expired on its own, let it expire. Let it run its course and let it conclude its cycle without me committing to it. But if it's an idea that is sticky, if I keep thinking about it, then it's a sign that I need to work on it. Finally, just to say this, meditation for me also happens when I am doing manual labor, because I do a lot of manual labor around here. It again is relaxing. It again is a way for me to reflect on my condition and to appreciate the world for what it is. And to also appreciate the human condition. Because when you do work, for example, I use the pickaxe. If you have ever used the pickaxe, first of all, the thing is heavy in itself. Like just wielding it in the air, it's already difficult. Hitting the soil, which is of course consolidated soil, is also really, really tough. That's really hard work. My point is that you do this kind of physical work and now you start feeling the pressure, like physically. You feel your limits. This is the idea. And for me, that is great because I have a feedback loop that tells me something about my condition. In this case, the physical condition, but generally about my condition. It's not a feedback loop where the terminus is indeterminate. Like the terminus is pretty clear. Like if I keep doing this, I will exhaust myself or I will injure myself or anyway, I will feel the pain. Whereas if I am, let's say, thinking things through, it's easy for me and for everybody, I would say, to overthink them, basically to think about what I am thinking and to reflect on the reflection and to go into the meta of the meta of the meta analysis and basically keep doing that because I cannot tell where the terminus is. I cannot figure that out. Of course, I can reason about some terminus, but fundamentally, it's a line that I draw in the sand. It's not something that is robust. It's not something that I feel and it pains me and I know when to stop. That sort of thing. And I think this is nice because it has the meditative effect of you understanding your condition better. In this case, the physical condition, but you again see that feedback is important. Knowing where the limits are is important. Friction is important because when everything is frictionless, in the case of capturing thoughts and that sort of thing, when it is effortless, it becomes basically the conduit for all thoughts, for the unfiltered stream of consciousness to pour through. And then, of course, most of that is fleeting, most of that is useless. So you don't want to have frictionless experience. That would be the idea in general. Let's see. Oh, what happened? Sorry, folks. It went further down. Let me see. Yeah, so Mester is asking, what is the philosophical way, I don't know if I'm saying well, that has more influence you? Yeah, so basically you are saying which philosophy has influenced me the most. And it's not that easy to say because of course, I am a modern person, right? So by default, I have been influenced by everything modern, starting from my school education, my university education, everything that underpins that, of course, feeds into what I have learned as well and has influenced me. For example, the fact that science is the norm nowadays and we have technology and we have all that necessarily means that I have that kind of influence of me having a positive outlook towards science, for example, like by default, right? This is the idea. So there are a lot of influences coming from modernity, and there are influences that also come from my specific field of specialization when I was in university, which was politics and economics and law. With an emphasis on the European Union. So I read mostly in that field. So I read a lot about that. But what ultimately brought me to philosophy proper was the Greek tradition. And the Greek tradition spans lots of different schools. If you see the Greek tradition with a modern eye, you kind of see discrete schools. You kind of see different schools. You have like, oh, there is Platonism and there is Aristotelianism, and like they are completely different. And then of course there are the Stoics, again completely different, and then they are the other school, completely different, and this other one different. The way I see it is that it's actually a continuum. They are not really different, but they are just emphasizing different things, but they all draw from the same basis of culture, which is the Greek culture. And in the ancient Greece, of course, this was also a polytheistic culture. The idea of diversity is basically the central tenet of polytheism. Of course, you have many gods, so of course it's diverse. Many, which are, of course, all sharing the same quality of being gods. So they are all partaking of the divine. So, in a sense, if you say one God, it's the same as saying many gods because it's one which can be many. And of course, this is something that Christianity also says via the Trinity. But the point is that for me, the Greek culture is my greatest influence. Of course, I am not an ancient Greek, right? I cannot be because, of course, of what I said earlier. It's the modern era, all these influences and all that. Nevertheless, I see a lot of things coming from ancient Greece to modernity, to modern Greece in particular, that we still have. And I'm like, wow, that is great. So I want to flesh those out. I want to express those. And more importantly, I want to live in accordance with what I am saying. And this basically comes to what is my philosophy like in one sentence. And my philosophy is in one sentence is this. If you cannot do it, then probably you need to tweak it. You need to change it. Like you should be able to commit to what you are saying. Like your philosophy should be practical in this regard. And of course, philosophers can talk until the end of time about, oh, but what does practical mean and all that. But basically, it says that try to focus on the here and now of things being actionable and do it. And even if it's not perfect, that's still good enough. This is my idea. And that's how I would weed out, I would filter out theories that are smart, that are intelligent, that are interesting perhaps and fecund, but which ultimately don't amount to anything. It's just a meta game. That would be the idea. And finally, the last thing to say, the Greek culture is not divided into ancient and modern. Like there is no such distinction. It's just the Greek culture because modern Greece still has many of those influences coming from ancient Greece, but at times they just have different appearances, different formulations, different ways of being expressed, but the core is there and I am always keen on discovering it. And on my website, there is a section where I write so-called interpretations. And what I typically do is I will find a Greek song, translate the lyrics into English, and then write some commentary on what the song is talking about. And if you read the commentary there, of course, you could say, well, it's not really about the song, right? But that's the point. The commentary there is about something that we experience as people. So it's not about the Greek life. No, it's about the human condition in general. But it has themes that we will find from antiquity to this time. So, in short, there is that. Let's see. TXB says, I really liked the F themes. These are nice to look. Sorry, these are nice too. Looking forward to try them out. So yeah, thank you. As I said, I hope to publish them later today or tomorrow. We will see. But I just have to do the work of bringing in all the packages and deciding what goes where. This is the idea. And of course, that will be version 0.1, right? It can always be improved afterwards. So Yurko asks, do you use multiple monitors setup? The answer is no. This is a single monitor, but it is 2,560 pixels wide and 1080 tall. So it means basically that there is like 600 plus pixels on the side that is empty space. This is the idea. But what I do is here you will see the panel of the XFCE, and I set the panel to be 1920 pixels wide, and thus I know where the 1920 by 1080 is, right? This is the idea. And so basically the rest is empty there. And yeah, this is how I do it. When I was using a tiling window manager, I was taking advantage of this space, but I realized that I didn't actually need it. So it's just there. If I need to move a frame to the side, I just do that. I did use a multi-monitor setup at some point when I had the Lenovo ThinkPad X220. I was connecting it to an external monitor, but eventually that broke, and I am on a single monitor setup since then. Let's see. Ukiran at Linux says, are you interested in programming languages other than eLisp and Shell? In principle, yes. But this is just at the level of the wish list right now. What I would like to do is learn some more low-level language like C or Rust or something like that, like down there. I don't have a use case for it. I don't know if I will ever do anything with it, but just learning, just trying things out. And maybe by learning something there, I can also apply it to Lisp, or the concepts of Lisp can apply to that. I don't know. I really don't know enough to say, but for me, programming is really interesting. I really enjoy programming. Like, it's fun. That's what I say. And I believe I also write that in the book I wrote about the Emacs Lisp elements. Like, it's fun and I enjoy doing it. But it's fun to see the results. You have like an immediate feedback loop, so that I like. But it's also interesting because you see like the genius of humanity. You see how we designed this language which fundamentally translate into instructions for a computer, which fundamentally translates into physics, right, into electricity and whatnot. I don't know actually the technicalities, but we do all that to ultimately express everything. Like, we can express video, like we do here. We can express image, we can express words, we can express all that. And I'm like, this is amazing. This is brilliant. And understanding basically the world through the program is something that I enjoy doing. So there is that. Mester says, yes, the F themes are great. So thank you for that. Lasse says, my eyes normally cannot deal with dark themes. However, those look readable even for me. I will try. Very well. Me too. I cannot deal with dark themes, but it depends on the overall environment. Like right now, it's bright, like it's the like 3 o'clock almost. So there is a lot of environmental light, and for me, a light theme is the best theme right now. But if it's really dark and I have only a faint source of light, then I will use a dark theme. In practice, though, here at the hut, I don't have electricity at night, so I basically almost never use dark themes. This is the idea. Like, for me to use a dark theme, I have to basically pull the curtains and try to make the place darker for me to use a dark theme. And of course, I do it when I have to develop my themes, right? But yeah, because of how it is in practice, I am a light theme person right now. And Mester says that the F themes are their favorites together with the Kat Puchin themes. So those are nice as well, of course. Dabi and Jin says, "Hey Prot, hope you are doing well. I'm fine, thank you, and I hope you are doing well as well, or you are fine too, or whatever. Are you planning to do any particular cultivation on your land in terms of crops?" So right now, I still am not sure, but what I have been doing is I have been doing all those raised garden beds, and I did more. I did a video recently where I showed some, but I actually did more of them. So right here, and this is the front side of the hut. um, I plan to plant tomatoes. I have already planted some celery, and in one garden bed at the perimeter of it, I also planted some what's the name, onions. So I did that, but the rest are empty, and basically it's open ended. I'm not sure what I will do. I would like to grow also rocket arugula, and that I will do. And other than that, I'm not sure. It could be pumpkins or anything, squash, whatever it's called, and it's basically open ended. The problem, and this is what makes it difficult, is that we might have a drought this year as well. Like last year, there was a severe drought, and most of what I planted got burnt. I basically it was a disaster. This year we will see, but it's not looking good. So yeah, there is that. But I do it anyway for the activity itself. Let's see. Barborer says, after designing so many themes, what do you say is the job of themes or stylistic UI in writing text? Um, of course, maybe there should be studies and whatnot, and probably there are, but at least for me, I see this as a matter of comfort. Like, if I am looking at something that to me doesn't look good, it annoys me. Of course, annoys me may be an exaggeration, right? I don't mean to say that I cannot use it, but it's something that I keep noticing. And I'm like, this color over there, it doesn't look right. Like that orange over there contrasts really poorly with that purple right next to it. Like, why do I need to have my attention being pulled to that contrast over there? I would rather have a gradient, or I would rather have something more subtle. And because it keeps calling for my attention, at least subconsciously, part of what I am doing is channeled in that direction instead of being laser focused on my task. And so for me, having themes that work, again, subjectively, that work means that I no longer think about them, that I can just focus on what I am doing, and then the theme just blends in the background and simply facilitates my work. Of course, I understand this is not science or whatever, it's just how I have experienced it, but to me, this feels really strong. And of course, you could basically say the same thing for a keyboard. Like, why would someone have a custom keyboard? Why would someone have a custom desktop? Why would someone have a custom physical desk? Like, why can't we all just have the same thing? And I think it ultimately comes down to it is more comfortable for me, and because it's more comfortable, I can keep doing it for longer. And if I am doing it for longer, maybe I'm also doing it better. Long story short, it helps me. That would be the idea. So I think your name is pronounced Chem, or is it Sem? Like, I really don't know. But yeah, maybe you will tell me. So, hi, Prot. Do you write your journal in English or Greek? If English, is there a specific reason why you don't write in your mother tongue? Thank you. So usually I write in English, and the reason is that I want to practice my English. And actually, the reason I even do videos in English is for that, right? It's an opportunity for me to practice this foreign language, or if you want, my the mother tongue that I adopted. That would be the idea. So in practice, English is my second mother tongue, if that even makes sense. But it's basically a language that I use for my publications. And for me, it's important to be competent in this language, to be good. Of course, I always make mistakes. Like I have noticed some as I am talking now, but I know they are mistakes, but it's always tricky if you are not using the language all the time. It's tricky to switch from one to the other because, of course, here I normally communicate in Greek. I do write in Greek from time to time. If some relative messages me, of course, I will reply in Greek. If I need to fill in some document for the government or whatnot, it's in Greek, of course. So I do use Greek as well. The ideal would be to write in both, but then there is not enough time. I just write so much that if I were to also write the same amount in Greek, I would need to invent a 48-hour day. So until that happens, I am limited to English. So there is that. But of course, this is just to say this final thing. This is not, of course, an argument in favor of English over Greek. No, I think Greek is a wonderful language. English is a nice language as well. But it's a matter of practice. Like English is the international language or among the international languages. So if I want to have the cosmopolitan outlook that I have, like of me wanting to know different cultures, get closer to people from different backgrounds, then of course I have to use English. If I were doing this in Greek, for example, we wouldn't be having this conversation most probably. So that's that's the fact of the matter. That's like the constraint we are dealing with. So let's see. Pratik Mishra says, while taking notes in the note, do you make a table of contents for the notes? The answer is no. Usually my notes are standalone, and when they are not, they have links to other notes. But I don't do tables of contents in general. Like for me, a table of contents is within the context of a singular work. Like, for example, the other day I published my Emacs Lisp Elements, the book. It's one document, and of course, there are lots of headings or chapters. And of course, this has a table of contents because the order matters. But with notes, especially if they are standalone notes, the order is really arbitrary. Like you can order them however you want because they stand on their own. This is the idea. What matters is that you can understand them in isolation, but also you have a gestalt understanding. So you can also understand them in unison, in their combination. This is the idea. So you have a view of the specifics, but also of the bigger picture of what it is you are writing about. This is how it is. But of course, there is no right or wrong, right? So depends on what you are writing about. You may be writing in a way that is structured, and so of course, a table of contents makes perfect sense. So there is that to consider. And for me, just to make this general point, you don't have to follow what some other person is doing unless you are doing exactly the same thing. Like, for as long as we are doing something different, we have to consider what is most appropriate for the task at hand. So we have to be able to particularize our workflow and our tools. So we have to optimize for what we are doing. And if we are not optimizing for something, if we try to basically cover every use case, ultimately we are working against our productivity because we don't have a specific workflow. Like we are all over the place. And chances are that if we are like that, it's overwhelming because the options are practically innumerable. And so all the pathways that could unfold are more than we can fathom. And basically, we reach the point of analysis paralysis, where it's like, well, I could have links, but I could also have this other thing instead. So maybe I should do that. But then there is this third option. And what about this fourth? What are the pros and cons? And again, we reach the point of overthinking that I also mentioned earlier. And ultimately, that's not helpful. Let's see. Mester says, I hate YouTube, which doesn't allow you to edit your comments. Does it not? I must say I've never done it. So yeah. So of course, me, I am like. Let me see. Let me see 1 second quickly if I can. So here. Oh, you're right. Wow. Why wouldn't it give you that option? I guess because it's live, they want to basically retain that idea of, well, you wrote it and now it's out there. Yeah, so you cannot edit your comments here. That seems to be the case. So you have problems with the word correction in the mobile phone, and it's complicated for you to write. That's not a problem, so no worries about that. I just want to make sure that I understand what you are asking me, so that I don't just say, random stuff. So the first question is about the Emacs configuration, and let me see what you asked about exactly. So okay. So of your configuration. So the point of my Emacs configuration is basically to connect it to what I was saying earlier, to have a comfortable setup. A setup that allows me to do two things, and then there are more things, but two core things, which is to write prose and to write code. This is the idea. Writing prose, of course, is multifaceted because there is the part of writing an article for my website, for example. But then there is also the part of writing emails. So I do that as well. And then you could say, like, writing my to-dos and agenda and all that. I would put that under prose, but okay. You can consider it a third category if you want. But the point is that I want to be able to do all of that. And for me, having a custom configuration that I understand allows me to basically have an environment that I control and that I feel comfortable in and empowered by. This is the idea. Let's see. Spam Champ says, Prot, what do you think of passport bros? I have no idea what the passport bros are. So if you tell me what they are, then maybe I have something to say about them. So yeah, until then, I will wait. And if you tell me, I can come back and connect the dots. So let's see. MVM44 asks, how populated is the area around your house? When you walk, no one is visible. And the answer is there is zero population around the house. So where I am, it's just the wild. Further up the mountain, there is a village, there is a built up area, which I believe has maybe 200 registered citizens, registered as in voters. So 200, but I would say that in practice it's fewer people because, of course, many of those live in the city and they only come to the village over the weekends or during the holidays. This is the idea. So it's a sparsely populated region. And the place where I used to live before was had even fewer citizens, even fewer residents. It was less than 100, I think. So there is that. That said, it will actually depend on the time of the year because the population will fluctuate when there are seasonal workers who come to do work in the fields. So when there are seasonal workers, maybe there is plus 100 people, plus 200. I'm not sure. I'm not sure what the number would be. But there are people who will work during the August to October months, between August and October, because they are here to forage the crops. To here there are vineyards, so basically to pick the grapes. This is the idea. Angel C says, "Hi Prot, my laptop has a touch screen and a stylus. Have you seen any interesting Emacs packages for using a touch screen or a tablet? I would love to draw on my Emacs. There is this built-in, how is it called? I have to check. Built-in artist mode, I think. It's called artist mode, toggle artist mode. So, oh no, it's enabled in the current buffer. One second, one second. Let's disable it in the current buffer and let's go to the Scratch buffer. So let's enable artist mode, and maybe I can bring Emacs a little bit here. And artist mode allows you to do this sort of thing. And you just draw. Yeah, I don't know if this is actually any useful. Let me see if I can. Oh, I cannot hit enter. Okay, of course. So artist mode. Oh, look at that. Yeah, I haven't used it, folks. So I just try hit enter and it does this thing. Okay. Anyway, so the answer is there is artist mode, but other than that, I have no idea how this thing works. So you could try it, maybe. I did it with the mouse, by the way. So I was just clicking and dragging the mouse pointer. So you can try it and see how it goes. But otherwise, I'm not aware of other packages. Let's see. Spam Champ says, if you don't know, these are people who develop in countries like Philippines and Thailand. Oh, okay, I see. Yeah, of course, it's a tricky situation, right? I'm sure there is an argument in favor of that. Like maybe there are many arguments in favor of that, but yeah, my gut feeling is that yeah, it feels like they are taking advantage of the situation, the fact that they come from a richer country and they may be leveraging that. But of course, I don't know. I don't want to generalize because I don't want to say like, oh, you know, there is this Western man and he's having an affair with a woman from a developing country. Therefore, that is exploitation. Like, I don't think you can say that ipso facto any relationship of that sort is exploitative. So I think that line of thinking is wrong, but there is also the other side, which is like, yeah, it's tricky because if there is a power dynamic of that sort, yeah, it's a tricky. Like, what are the incentives on either side? But then, of course, we could say the same even within a single country. Like, again, maybe there are incentives. Like, you see a certain relationship as the means towards how is it called, upward mobility. Like, basically, like you marry upward in the social hierarchy. Like, you have more money or more fame or more access to resources or whatever, right? So yeah, I guess what applies domestically would also apply internationally. So if we are to condemn an international practice, we should also condemn a domestic practice. And then it gets tricky because then how do you determine that you are dealing with a situation of exploitation as opposed to two people just liking each other? Like, how would we be able to make that distinction? Of course, there will be some obvious cases, right? But once we get past the obvious ones, like, how do we go about that? For me, that will be tricky. So, because of this doubt, even if my gut feeling is that I don't really like the idea, I would still err on the side of caution. And we say, you know what? I cannot pass blanket judgment and say that, oh, I am against it and I condemn every single case, because I cannot say with certainty that every single case is exploitative. So there is that. But of course, I'm happy to consider, and if there is, of course, data to look at the data and better understand the situation, then of course, I think that is the right thing to do. Generally, more generally here, when we are dealing with phenomena in society, we are always dealing with something that is complex. And the narratives in our politics nowadays, I think this is basically global, but at least from what I am seeing, the narratives usually are simplistic. Like, you basically eliminate all the nuance. And so now you are dealing with monocultures or monoliths of whatever it is you are dealing with. Like in this case, you are eliminate, not you in particular, the general you are eliminating the nuance, and you are like, this is a case of exploitation, therefore I am against. Or if you are in favor, you will just eliminate the other way and say this is a case of, yeah, just men being men or whatever you want to say, and you are in favor of it. Whereas what I want from ourselves and our politics is to try to be more considerate and try to look at the details and try to understand the nuances. Of course, this doesn't make for good TV. This doesn't make for clickbait. This doesn't make for catchy tweets. I know. But it is hard to understand complexity, and it is responsible to deal with complexity in a considerate way and to see all the sides, or at least try. That is the idea. And of course, we will still get it wrong. We are fallible. We will always be getting it wrong. But at least, where are our intentions? What is our conduct? This is the idea. So let's see. Mr. Polyphonic Poi says, "Hi, Prot. Just stopping by to say thank you. You are welcome. I appreciate your videos. They have helped me immensely. So I'm happy to help however I can." MVM44 says, "What Linux distribution are you using?" This one is Debian, and it's the latest stable version of Debian. It's Debian Bookworm. I believe it's version 12, but I'm not sure. So there is that. The desktop environment is XFCE, and I think Debian and XFCE is like the perfect match. Like, Debian is a stable distribution, XFCE is a stable desktop environment, nothing ever changes. For me, it's fantastic because then I can focus on other things. And what I also like, to the point of what I was saying earlier about having a setup that is comfortable, I appreciate the fact that there are few, if any, animations going on. Like, I tried GNOME for a while, the GNOME desktop environment, and I get it. Like, the workflow is good. Like, I can work with GNOME perfectly fine. But what I don't like is that it has animations. Like, it is as if I am playing a video game. And if I want to play a video game, I just do that. I don't want my desktop environment to have zoom in, zoom out, and move in this fancy way to the side and all that. They call this modern, and it is modern in the sense that it is the current trend. But to me, modern does not mean better. To me, it means just it's what everybody is doing nowadays. And what I like is this austere approach to the interface, which is like, things are relatively static, things are relatively boring, it's mostly text, and that's great. And for me, then, it's a matter of focusing on whatever it is I am doing. Not to say, though, that this is objectively the superior choice for everybody. No, it's about what each person thinks is comfortable for them, what they feel like. And I think that's ultimately what matters, for this case at least. I whack up. Sorry, what happened here? Let's see. Oh my goodness. It was I whack. So here we are. Hello, Prodesilos. Hello to you too. I'm curious, what are your thoughts on mathematics? Where does it sit within your philosophy and why? So, mathematics is basically one of my weakest points, folks. I know, of course, the basics to live, right? And to keep my finances in order and even build the hut and that kind of thing. So I know enough to survive. But beyond that, I basically am an idiot. I cannot really say much about it. So you will have to ask somebody who understands the topic better. Um, I think that if I were to study, I would understand it, right? I don't think the concepts that mathematicians are dealing with are elusive and out of my reach. I don't think that is the case, but it's just a language that I don't speak. I would say it's basically that. And maybe many of my thoughts have basically a mathematical expression, and what I am saying mathematicians are also saying, and basically we are saying the same thing, but I have no notion of it, and that's why I don't say it in those terms. The reason I don't know much about mathematics is due to my background, my upbringing. When I was a kid, I was a really, really active kid. Like basically a demon, right? I was jumping around. I was noisy. I was curious about everything. I was basically unruly, uncontrollable. And school for me was really, really boring. Like I didn't like it at school fundamentally. Like you just sit there and you listen, or you just hear, you don't listen, you daydream, but you sit there and you have to hear the teacher say the same things over and over, and you have to memorize them, and you have to go the next day and say, oh, I am a very good student, and yesterday we said this, and now I learned it because I can repeat it. And I was like, I don't care, I don't like it, this is boring, I want action, give me something that challenges me. Give me something that I can work with. And basically, I didn't have a good relationship with school. I still have a negative view of public education and of the way education is done. I think that it is formulaic. It is optimizing for the wrong targets, like the ability to perform well at a test, and it's all mechanized, as it were, and people are robotized, and everybody is a replica of everybody else, and basically we have turned ourselves into just units or items on a production line. And for me, that is not what the human condition is about. Like, I would like to have education that is more exploratory in nature, that it is more about triggering your thoughts, providing an impetus to think, which of course is why I'm interested in philosophy as well, right? Which is like, don't give me the answers, don't expect answers. Let me think things through, let me consider it. This is the idea. And of course, there will have to be some practical skills as well. And I'm all in favor of that. Of course, I'm doing manual labor as well. Why wouldn't I be? But the practical skills you can learn. Like, I would rather have a school that teaches me gardening, cooking, construction work, like all the practical skills, and then you do some theoretical skills, including mathematics and language and all that. And then the rest is a matter of universities. It's not public education. It's not kids that have to learn about all the things that they will never use. Like at school, I remember, of course, this is my impression. It's not literally what happened. But my impression, what I remember is that we were doing geometry for like 10 years. Like, I don't know. I kept hearing the same things over and over. And I'm like, I will never use this thing. Why are you insisting? Why are you making my life miserable? I am a boy. I am bursting with energy. I need to go out there and have some fun and do my adventure. This is basically it. Yeah, long story short, I'm not good at math. When I went to university, just to say this, I did actually become a good student, but this was because university is different. Like, they don't expect you to memorize things. You can still do that, and you will get good grades and basically continue being a parrot forever. Uh, but you can also do what I did, which is to have a more open-ended kind of approach, and you study and you reason about what you are learning, and then you have your own take. And for me, this is the interesting part. So yeah, there is that. Angel says the human body is the best REPL, and I think that is true. This, I guess, is to the point of what I was saying earlier. Like, you want to have a feedback loop, so when you are doing something, it gives you a reply, and you can work based on that. And I think this is a good way of putting it. So Mester says that has sense in certain way, and then a brain emoji. So I think this connects to the point of what I was saying earlier about the Greek culture. So yeah, there is that. But just to say another thing, just to be clear on this, like, when I say the Greek culture, I don't mean it in a nationalist way, like, oh, it's our Greek culture and we don't want the others. I don't mean it in that way. I mean that for me, it's the culture that is the most accessible because, of course, of my upbringing, of my mother tongue, and that sort of thing. But in that culture, I find lessons, narratives, insights that are universally applicable, or at least that I think relate to phenomena that have nothing to do with Greeks per se. So there is that. TXB says, thanks, Prot. Appreciate the insight. You're welcome. Patrick says, do you think that there are non instrumental intrinsic values, or perhaps everything can be described as instrumental? I would say that the concept of intrinsic to me is strange, because to have something intrinsic, it means that you can have that thing devoid of its context. Like, you can have a human or a piece of rock or something else decontextualized without its environment, without the cosmos. So you can study it in isolation, in a vacuum, and say, now it is intrinsic. But otherwise, how do you say that something is intrinsic? We say it, but we say it in a conventional way, like the intrinsic properties of coffee are to stimulate you in the morning or whatever. And that's fine. And I agree with that conventional, everyday, practical form of intrinsic. But if you are thinking of intrinsic in an absolute sense, then for me that's a problem. Like, yeah, how can you ever experience the intrinsic when experience presupposes the thing and the subject that experiences the thing, and thus the context in which this experience unfolds? In other words, the cosmos. So there is that. Frankfurt says, do you do Java development? The answer is no, I don't know Java. Basically, I know Emacs Lisp and some shell scripting. That's basically what I do. If I see some other programming language, like if I see some Python or some JavaScript, I will sort of understand what it is doing if it is written in a clear way. But if it's written in a really terse form, and maybe it's depending on libraries which have obscure names and stuff, then of course I won't understand anything. So there is that. Monologue says, Q, any suggestion of finding a Lisp closure job in the European Union? So I don't know how the job market is these days, but the closure community is really active on Slack, last I checked. And basically the idea is that you hop over to the Slack channel and you ask this sort of question, and there will be people who will help you out. This is the idea. But my information is 3 years out of date, 2 years out of date. So you have to check. There is that. Also, I don't know how the job market is these days. And another cue. How do you compare Emacs with NeoVim? By the way, I don't care about editor wars. I don't care about editor wars either. I haven't used NeoVim in earnest. So I was a Vim user before I switched to Emacs. And it was at the time when NeoVim was becoming a thing. It was at the early stages of NeoVim's life. And at the time, NeoVim looked fine to me, but I didn't see the value of it. Now that I'm using Emacs and I hear more about NeoVim, my understanding of NeoVim, and maybe this is wrong, I'm just an outsider, but my understanding of NeoVim is that basically they took Vim and they followed the Emacs paradigm of making it more extensible and more batteries included and the kitchen sink and all that. So basically, they are now developing an editor that is fully fledged the way Emacs is and extensible, and basically it's like a replacement for your entire operating system in potentiality. That would be the idea. Of course, maybe it's not technically that. Maybe Emacs is still more editable, and I think this is true. But still, it's the direction, and I think NeoVim is moving in that direction, and I think that's great. For me, having a text editor that you can modify and you can change to work the way you want it to work is fantastic because it connects to what I was saying earlier. It is more comfortable to have something that works the way you want rather than you adapting to it. And if it's more comfortable, it may also be conducive to a better work, more work, or better work. So let's see. Amu says, "Hi Prot, what do you think about AI?" Um, a general point, so I will answer, but a general point, note that, folks, I don't just have the YouTube here and I do videos. I actually publish a lot on my website, protesilaos.com, so my name.com. And LLMs and AI in general is a question that I got asked about recently, and I published an excerpt of that response without disclosing the identity of my correspondent. And basically, the point I made is that I am not against AI. I think it has many legitimate uses, and I think we are at the cusp of a new era. We are at the beginning of a new phase in human civilization, fundamentally, of how work is organized, how societies are structured, how politics are done. So I think we will be seeing a lot more, and we are just at the beginning. When change happens, it is natural that we are concerned about it. Like there is a natural reservation, like what will happen to our jobs? What will happen to this? What will happen to that? And of course, there are things that I am skeptical about as well. But what I always say is that it is a matter of adapting to the technological reality. It's not a matter of the technology itself being bad. It's a matter of how we use it. And how we use it makes the difference between a dumb or a destructive kind of usage and a virtuous or a smart or a productive kind of usage. This is the idea. Like if you use LLMs, for example, to flesh out some idea you have and you're already working on it, and the LLM allows you to express it in a way that would be more difficult for you to do, I think that's good. If you can use an LLM to basically produce a summary of something that is longer and that summary is accurate, that is good or can be good depending on what you are summarizing. and what it is that you are doing. But if you are now using it to answer all your life's questions and you take its responses at face value and you don't do any critical thinking and all that, well, that's a problem. But what is the problem? The problem is that you don't do the critical thinking. The problem is that you don't do the fact checking, or that you basically are putting your faith in this single input. And of course, this is not a matter of AI at all. This is a matter of me saying something and you taking it at face value. Not you in particular, okay, the general you, but you taking it at face value. So I say, I believe X is good, and you don't question that. Whereas you should, because maybe I'm wrong, or maybe I am correct, but only in a very specific sense, not generally. So all that has to be considered. There is this myth, and to connect to what I was saying earlier about the Greek culture and the insights I find, which are universal. There is a myth in the Greek tradition, which is the myth of Prometheus, or Prometheus in English, Prometheus. And Prometheus, long story short, is basically a god who takes the art of fire away from the Olympic gods and teaches it to humans. So, fire, the art of fire, the know how of wielding fire, was once at the possession of the gods. It was a secret, only the gods knew it. And Prometheus passes that knowledge to humans. And Prometheus is punished for it by the other gods. And we can now think of what is the discussion, what is at stake. You can think of, let's say, Zeus. Okay, we are simplifying now. We can think of Zeus saying to Prometheus, hey, Prometheus, what are you doing? Are you not thinking things through? You take this hidden art, this potent knowledge, and you teach it to those idiots, those people, those inconsiderate fools. You know what they will do with it? They will use it to kill each other. They will burn each other down. They will use it to make bombs with which to obliterate themselves, to blow themselves into smithereens. This is what they will do. Is that what you want? And then we can think of Prometheus countering that, well, they will use fire, the art of fire, to make tools. They will use tools to have a more safe life. They will use tools to make instruments with which to play music. They will use tools to make houses and live there. They will make buildings where they teach philosophy and mathematics and all that. They will build computers and so on and so forth. All the things that can go wrong can also go well. They can also be used for good. They will use fire at the fireplace to keep themselves warm, to keep babies warm. So fire is itself, fire as such, is neither good nor bad. It is neither evil nor virtuous. This is the idea. It's about how we use it. We can use fire metaphorically, knowledge, know-how, technology. We can use it to kill ourselves. Like we can do it right now. We are doing it, of course. We have been doing it throughout history. But we can also do it, we can also use it to, for example, make this live stream possible, make this communication possible. Like you may be at the other side of the planet right now, but we are having this exchange, even if it's not live talk, it's still an exchange, right? And for me, it all comes down to let's consider the specifics. Let's not have this understanding of the world and of the phenomena in the world as a binary. It can either be fully good or fully bad, and there is no in between. No, it's a continuum. And it's a spectrum, and it's neither good nor bad. It is both good and bad. And it's a matter of where this balance is and how we deal with it. This is the idea. And of course, the idea that the world is neither purely good or purely bad is also something that we have in the Greek culture, and I think that's really deep. It's not specific to the Greek culture, of course, but I'm just saying. Pritam Pramanik says, Prot, can you make a video to explain us EGLOT and LDOC someday? Yes, sure. To say it in a few words now, EGLOT or EGLOT, however people pronounce it, is a client for LSP. It's built into Emacs. LSP is a technology that runs on your computer. It's basically a program. It runs on your computer. It runs in the background. And it understands the programming code you have. It understands your project. And based on that understanding, it sends the information to your text editor. And your text editor can now do stuff with that information. And this includes, it can complete symbols, like you are typing the first few characters of a function's name, and it gives you the option to complete the whole thing, or to select among names that have the given prefix. Same for variables. It can understand method calls, and it can understand the parameters and all that. It can help you do analysis of your code to check for errors and warnings and all that, linting, as we say. It also gives you the option to navigate to the definition of the given function, variable, etc., and documentation. So you get all of that. LDoc, it's narrower in scope, or simpler, or whatever. And what LDoc does is it basically provides a feedback of what the given function takes as parameters. What are the parameters of the given function? So for example, you have a function, let's say it is called hello, and it takes two arguments, the name of a person and the country of the person. So if you are typing hello and then space, now you are about to write the first argument to hello. And so what LDoc will do is it will produce in the echo area where the mini buffer is, where MX is, it will say hello, and then in highlight will be the name of the parameter you are now about to type. So it will say name, let's say. And once you type out the name and you go to one space, it will now highlight the next parameter, which is country, and so on. This is basically the idea with LDoc. And of course, depending on what you are doing, you can have a custom LDoc function, which in principle displays arbitrary information, and you can just show it in a similar way to the one I explained. So there is that. Jupiter says, what are your thoughts on Leibniz's application of maths to philosophy? So as I said earlier, math is basically my weakest point, so I cannot comment at length. I can just do the basics, and they are enough for me to survive. So I'm still here, so that means that I am doing well in that regard. But other than that, I haven't gone in depth. Maybe I will do it at some point, who knows? If I have a good reason for it, something to hook me, I will go down that rabbit hole. Frankfurt says, where are you? I am in Cyprus, in the mountains of Cyprus. And Jupiter says, also, how warm is it in Cyprus right now? I'm going to visit Cyprus in some weeks. So, of course, in some weeks it will be warm. Right now, I would say it's 20 something, but it will drop. So it's unusually high for this time of the year. I will say it's 25 maybe today. But maybe that's too high. It's 20 plus, but I'm not sure how many. But in a few weeks, of course, depending on how many weeks we are talking about, we are now talking about the early summertime. So, of course, it will be considerably warmer. By the sea, it is, of course, much warmer than here at the mountain. Where I am, it's close to 1,000 meters in altitude, so it's cooler. It's more humid, it's cold at night, even during the summer. Like, I see people who visit the mountains and they come with just a t-shirt, and at night they are shivering because it's cold, even during the summer. So yeah, keep that in mind, by the way, if you move beyond, if you go to the mountains, if you move away from the seaside. Frankfurt says, should I use vanilla or do Emacs? And the answer is use whatever makes sense to you. Like, I cannot know what your requirements are. I cannot know what your expectations are. I cannot know how much time you would rather invest in learning Emacs, in setting up an Emacs that you configure, or in using something that is already there in the form of Doom Emacs in this case. So there is no right answer in a vacuum. Like, it could be either of those or some other configuration that there are many of them, and it could be one of those. The point is that if you are using Emacs, fundamentally it's the same tool, right? So whether you use Doom or Vanilla or whatever, it's still Emacs. And if you really want to understand Emacs, you will understand it one way or the other. So that is fine. Steph45 says, what is a book that you think everybody should read? Hmm. Yeah, that's a difficult question, I must say, because there are just so many books. But I would say that if I were to pick one broad field, I would say it has to be literature, like rather than philosophy or history or or the other topics. I would say it's literature, and the reason is because generally literature tells us about the human condition. Like, it may say it in a metaphorical way, it may say it in a fanciful way or whatever, but fundamentally it will tell us something that we can relate to. And I think it's the easiest way to relate to, because if you read philosophy, depending on the philosophy you will read, for example, it may be something really deep. And even if it's useful information, if you don't know what they are talking about, you're like, yeah, I don't understand. So I would rather do something else. So I would say it's literature. Now, which specific literature, of course, which specific book, that would be very difficult. So if I had to pick one, I would say I like the short stories of Aesop, or Aesop, as they say in English. It's stories, the fables of Aesop, and those are involving animals, and the animals talk, and what they discuss are things that actually are about people. It's not about animals. And I think that's really good because it is didactic. You remember it, it's catchy, so you will never forget it. It is useful for children, it's also useful for adults. So I think that's a good pick, but it doesn't have to be that. It could be anything, really. Like, the emperor has no clothes. That's a nice one. We even use the expression, right? That's a nice book as well. By the what's the Danish author? I forget what's the name of the person. So yeah, that's very nice. Let's see. Fun Freaky says, hi, Prot. How do you manage tabs and browser bookmarks if you have a lot of them? So the answer is I don't have a lot of them. I make a conscious effort to delete tabs that I am not using. And basically, I have no bookmarks whatsoever. I will, if I need to do something with a URL, I will capture the task in my workflow with org in my Emacs, and I will say, I am trying to do this. This website says such and such. There I can find the resource, and so on and so forth. And I will do it this way. So for me, the idea is to consolidate information, to not have something in Emacs, something in the web browser, something somewhere else. It's in this service and in that service, and I have to log into this and get that from that other place. I want it to be all in one place so that I have a streamlined way of reading what I need to read. This is the idea. I used to have many tabs open and I would pin them and then I would be like, okay, so all the pinned tabs are to-dos basically, or just things to remember. And eventually that doesn't work because you keep seeing it all the time and you want to do something else and it's there and you're doing something else. And eventually you train your brain to ignore the constant and to only pay attention to the variable. So to what is changing. And so, at least what happened to me is that all those pins, basically they didn't exist. They were invisible. And I was just focusing on whatever it is I was doing. And eventually that was not productive. This is the idea. Whereas now it is more purposeful. I'm like, to do, I have a clear task. There is the information, do it. And the to do also, I think I've talked about this before in the previous live stream, maybe. The to do also has inherent sensitivity to it. Like either I have to do it in a specific moment at a specific point in time, or in relation to some other activity, which itself is time sensitive, or it's not a to do anymore and it's just a wish list item, in which case I will do it when I feel like it. So at any rate, it won't be cluttering my interface. So there is that. Let's see. Mester says, the aporetic fonts are really good. I'm using them in Emacs, especially the Sans version. So thank you very much. I use them everywhere as well. I noticed that here YouTube comments don't use my aporetic fonts, but basically everywhere else it's aporetic. So I don't know why here it's not. I will have to check what Chromium is doing. This is Chromium. So I will check what they are doing, or maybe it's YouTube in particular. Maybe I need to toggle a setting to not allow websites to have their own fonts, that sort of thing. Like I have that setting in Firefox, and it's how I do it. Because to me, having fonts that are comfortable, again, this theme of comfort, is important. I like it more. This specific font here is okay as well, but I would prefer to have my own font. So right now it doesn't really matter, but yeah, that's fine. I seldom do this, so yeah, it's not something I need to optimize for. Let's see. JGY says, I really like the note. Is the blogger using Arch? What desktop environment are you using? I don't know who the blogger is, who you are thinking about here. So me, I am using Debian. This is XFCE. And if you are interested about my blog slash website, I am building it with a program called Jekyll. Jekyll is a static site generator. It's written in Ruby. And I switched to Jekyll from WordPress, wordpress.org, in early 2016. At the time, I wasn't tech savvy. I hadn't even switched to Linux yet. I didn't know anything about Git or the command line and stuff. I was just following tutorials. And basically, I switched to Jekyll. Shortly afterwards, I switched to Linux. Then I discovered all the fancy things that Linux has to offer, and basically here we are. So that was nice. And yeah, thank you about the note. I use it, of course, as well. I am the developer, the author as well, so I enjoy doing that too. And it's fun. So Carlos Vigil Vasquez says, Prot, just wanted to thank you for your work on the FOSS community. You are welcome. I have been deeply inspired with your work and recently started re-implementing your denote package in NeoVim, and then the smiling face. So congratulations. Good luck with that. If you have any questions, I am happy to help. I don't know enough about NeoVim to provide any technical insights. But yeah, if you have any questions, just let me know. If you want, if the project is ready, I'm happy to also provide a link to it. No problem whatsoever if people want to have that. Because Denote, like the idea of Denote, is not Emacs specific. Like you can use it anywhere. But of course, I am developing the Emacs package so that I streamline the workflow inside Emacs, but the workflow isn't really bound to Emacs. It could be done with NeoVim, it could be done with any text editor, it could be done just with the command line. It's a matter of how you go about it. So let's see. Gabrielle says here, hello. Hello to you too. Is Guile a better language than eLisp for Emacs? If so, what are the advantages of Guile over eLisp? So in a vacuum, maybe yes. In a vacuum, Guile is better than eLisp, maybe. But it doesn't matter because we don't have Emacs in a vacuum. We have GNU Emacs. And GNU Emacs has always had Emacs Lisp as its language. And what this means in practice, we have decades of legacy. We have decades of code to deal with. So even if Guile is the best language in the world, because of the specific history of GNU Emacs, it cannot take the place of Emacs Lisp. Like, we will be throwing away all that history. We will be throwing away that corpus of work, all that code, to basically reinvent it in a different programming language. So even if Guile is better in a vacuum, it's not better in this specific sense. That is the idea. Whether it's actually better or not now, I don't even know because I haven't developed in Guile, so I wouldn't know to tell you. But then it's a matter of eLisp, at least when it comes to Emacs, is designed to extend Emacs. So I would say, for the purpose of extending Emacs, eLisp already looks like a pretty good choice, notwithstanding the history, of course. So let's see. Dizzy says, good morning, Prot. Hello to you too. How do you think one should approach philosophy and history as a complete newbie, with the goal of having more sophisticated thoughts? So I would say that I'm glad you mentioned history, actually, because I think it's to the point of how I see it, which is like you could go down the path of studying philosophy, and it would be basically decoupled from the world. It would be like a study unto itself. And of course, there would be references to the world, and depending on your experience, you would understand them. But I think it helps to actually study history and to study people and to study the works of people, and then bring that into your philosophical pursuits, because then you are able to have the specifics and then discern the common in the multitude of them. And by discerning the common in the multitude, now you are doing philosophy. This is the idea. Whereas if you are just doing philosophy, of course, you are still dealing with abstractions, but where is the abstraction coming from? What are we abstracting away from to come to the abstraction? So I think it helps to have an understanding of history and understanding of the human condition in general. And it's not history per se, right? Like, history is another one of those lessons that is taught in a really bad way, to what I was saying earlier about my experience with school, public education, which is like they are like, the teacher is like, history is the study of dates and names and how the two go together. So you have to remember that this war took place in such and such date, and the general was this person, and the other general was that other person. And basically, you have to memorize all these trivia. And of course, depending on what you are doing, this is important. But generally, history is not about that. History is about understanding what were the triggers for the given actions. What were people trying to do? What were people competing for or working towards? What was it all about? And so basically, we study history to understand ourselves better. Dates and names are helpful, of course, but it's not the focus. It's not the essence. So there is that. Board bits up. Sorry, it scrolled way past here. So let's see. Board bits says, I want to make Emacs launch a specific language server not based on the file ending, but from a collection of file types that are available from the content root, Svelte kit. Where should I start? Technically, assuming you are talking about eglot or eglot, it doesn't depend on the file ending. It depends on the, what's it called, auto mode A list. The auto mode A list is a variable in Emacs that creates an association between the file name, specifically the file ending, and the major mode that file ending should use. The emphasis is on major mode, okay? So you could say, for example, that I want, you will modify the auto mode A list. I want this specific file name to have that major mode. Or you could say, I want it to have the fundamental mode or whatever. And then you activate the major mode yourself in some other way. And eglot, if you check the variable eglot server programs, it's again an A list, which establishes associations between a list of major modes or one major mode and all the possible language servers with their command line flags. So basically, you can modify those two and have the behavior you are describing. I don't know what Svelte kit is concretely, but I imagine it gives you some feedback and some data, and basically you can use that to create this connection between major mode and language server. Let's see. Gal Buki says, hi, Prot. Hello to you too. Thank you for your videos and Emacs packages. They are great and very helpful. You are welcome. Monologue says, what is your laptop? It's the Lenovo T470, which was given to me. It's a gift by a person called Anush V. So thank you, Anush, again for the laptop. That was very kind of you. Wearing glasses versus contact lenses. So right now, of course, I'm wearing glasses. I have used contact lens before, and I am thinking of doing it again. And the reason is that I bought this pair of glasses a couple of years ago. Actually, it's 2 years and maybe 2 months. And they have already been defaced. And for me, this is not good. Like, I would expect the glasses to last longer. I have been taking good care of them, but they are they have scratches all over the place. And it's not actually scratches. It's like part of the I forget the word now. How do we call it? The lens. Part of the lens is basically worn down, which is like, it's like I was scratching it with sandpaper or something, which I never did, of course. So I am thinking of getting some contact lens to be able to work without worrying about the wear and tear on the glasses, and then buy a new pair of glasses that I will keep just for indoor use. But I will see. I will see, because I don't know if the financial aspect of it is worthwhile. Like, maybe contact lens are more expensive. I haven't checked the prices. It's been more than 10 years since I used the contact lens. Let's see. Oscar says, hi from Mexico. So, hello from Cyprus. I asked ChatGPT to tell me the name of an expert in Emacs use and application, and they show me your name. So, yeah, that's good. There are a lot of people, of course. Now I'm learning Emacs with your videos. Thanks. You are welcome. Have you ever used FreeBSD? The answer is no, but I want to check out the BSDs in general at some point. It's either FreeBSD or OpenBSD. I have read a little bit about them, but I don't know. The thing is, if I don't have a concrete use case for it, if it's like just whimsical, I cannot prioritize it. So I will do it at some point, but it's just a wish list item, or I would like to do it at some point. Whereas if I had like a specific use case, well, of course, I would have done it already. Let's see. Spam Champ says, have you visited a non-Europe country? How was it? Non-Europe country, the answer is no. I've only been to European countries. If we are talking about the European Union in particular, right now the United Kingdom is outside the European Union. So if that counts, then I've been to the UK. But other than that, I've only ever been inside of the European Union. And when I visited the UK, it was in the European Union also. Um, Maybe I will travel, but yeah, right now it's not easy. Of course, traveling is expensive as well. So for me, that is a challenge, a considerable challenge. But even if I had the money, it wouldn't be easy practically because of what I'm doing here. It's important for me to continue the work around the hut, and in the hut, I still have to do the waterproofing. I haven't done that. So I'm waiting for the weather to get more dry to start the project. So there are a lot of things. And once everything is in order, then yeah, sure, maybe I can travel, assuming I have the money, of course. But yeah, we will see. Luke says Oscar did the same. So yeah, so that's good, I guess, for ChatGPT to be offering my name as an option. So Graham says, do you agree that our world is experiencing late stage capitalism? Is so, what is next for society? For me, late stage capitalism is a strange concept. No, I don't think so. Like, in short, I don't think so. Because um, it's just a theoretical concept which assumes a linear progression of stages of capitalism, and basically we are at this stage. Whereas I don't think fundamentally this way of looking at it is helpful. And even capitalism as a concept, it's not really descriptive. Like, it is saying something, yes, but it is not saying enough. Like, you can compare two regimes, for example. You can compare the 1940s, for example, or the 1930s with what we have nowadays, and you will say, well, this is capitalism. And in a sense, yes, they are both capitalism, but in another sense, you are comparing two different things because of the monetary system being different back then, the technology being different back then, which meant that international trade was different back then. The interconnectedness of the financial sector was different, and so on. And the principles, even if they are the same, because of the specifics of the technology and the specifics of policy and the specifics of how economies are tied together, we will still have sufficiently distinct phenomena that we have to be able to consider in their specifics. So just calling everything capitalism or late stage or whatever we use ultimately doesn't say much. So I would rather do the more practical discussion of, let's see right now what it means, for example, that the transition to the AI powered economy, what does that mean concretely when it's a handful of corporations that control this fundamentally critical technology, this critical infrastructure, if you want, or this critical know-how, however you want to call it. So what does it mean for the cornerstone of the economy, the cornerstone of society, the cornerstone of politics, depending on how far it goes, to be private and to be the private property of 3 people, 4 people, 5 people? What does that mean? So I would be interested more in that kind of specificity. Of course, not to say that we shouldn't use the general descriptions. They also have their role, but we shouldn't stay at those. What is next for society? I cannot tell. I am not a prophet or a seer. I cannot know what the future is like. All I can say is that there are potentials based on what we see nowadays. And one potential is that if, let's say, we limit it to AI, since we are talking about this, one potential is that basically we have tyranny of the sort we have never seen before, where a small group of people has disproportionate power, like basically overwhelming power over the rest of us. The other scenario is that this technology and this transition brings about changes which actually shift the balance in the other direction. And instead of fewer people, we have more people being the stakeholders and being influential and whatnot. It's impossible to say that one or the other will necessarily happen. So there is that. Spam Champ says, Prot, what do you think of the India-Pakistan escalation? Do you think it is similar dynamics as Israel-Palestine one? Um, to the point of what I was just saying earlier, like you can always make generalizations. And when you make generalizations, of course, there are similarities. Like just how you can say, well, there are similarities between the early 20th century and the 21st century, or between the Middle Ages and today. In a sense, that's true. There are similarities between one conflict and another conflict, and in a sense, that's always true. But there are always important differences, and I think when it comes to these hotly contested issues, it's important to be responsible in considering the specifics. Like, let's say here, if I have a generic theory of conflict, a theory of colonialism, a theory of imperialism, a theory of supremacism, or whatever theory, right? I can apply this theory to all the conflicts. And I can say, this is a case of this theory in effect. This is another case. This is a third case, and so on and so forth. But I think it is not helpful analysis. Maybe there is something there, but it is not enough. And it gives us a false sense of descriptive capacity in thinking that we understand the phenomena better than we actually do. So I would rather delve into the details, look into the specifics. To your question, I don't know enough about the cultural and historical backdrop. From what I understand, this is a history that goes back a long, long time. This has to do with eons of disputes, eons of conflict, and of course there are many layers to it. There are religious differences. There are differences over the control of resources. There are differences over which superpower gets to control what, like what is the role of China, what is the role of America, and so on. So there are many layers to this. And then you have specific situations, such as the specific history of the Kashmir region, right? Where you have treaties between the two countries, and Kashmir had a special status. And now, what this special status was, and how it has been revoked, how it has been undone, and what that means for the people that once agreed a certain thing, and now that thing is no longer there. So there is a lot going on, and escalation is happening and has been happening. So this is the latest stage of an ongoing conflict that has many events over the years. Like I remember, for example, hearing about when was it, 2008, the events in Mumbai. I think that was 2008. And of course, somehow that was connected. So, of course, there is a history between the two countries. And there are many players involved. And of course, each player has different interests. what I would like in general, and it's all I can say, what I would like is for people to find the common ground between them, not what keeps us apart, what brings us together. Because if you want to separate people, you can always do it. Like, if it's not along the lines of who is Hindu and who is Muslim, it will be along the lines of who has black hair and who has blonde hair. And if it's not that, it would be along the lines of who is tall and who is short. And if it's not that, it will be along the lines of who is, let's say, knowledgeable in the technical fields and who is studying the humanities or whatever. And if it's not that, it would be males and females and so on. Like, we can always keep dividing people. We can always do it. Like, you can have 5 people sitting at the table and they order salad. You will have 5 different types of salad. There will never be one salad to satisfy them all. Okay? So if you really want, at that table, you can say, oh, no, we cannot possibly sit together at the same table. No, we should hate each other, right? So you can always do that. And I think if we try to look past our differences and try to let go of historical grievances, I think we are moving forward and we can work together. And this applies, of course, to India and Pakistan. It applies to Israel and Palestine. It applies to Cyprus, Greek Cypriots and Turkish Cypriots, and so on and so forth. Like, people can come close, people can be friends. Like, we saw the situation in Northern Ireland, like, it improved. And maybe there is more room for improvement, and hopefully we will have that as well. And things improve when we have the courage to improve them. Because, in a sense, it's easy to think in terms of the victim and the oppressor, of yourself as the victim and the other side as the oppressor, or of yourself as being rightful and of the other side as being not rightful, tyrannical, or oppressive. And sometimes this is correct. Sometimes that is the case. But you have to be prepared to find the common ground and make sacrifices for peace. Like, peace is not for free. You will not have peace in a mindset of the winner takes it all. Like, that is not peace anymore. Peace is basically a compromise. So if we are interested in having peace, we have to be thinking in terms of, okay, what kind of negotiated settlement can we have? And if we cannot have that, well, there will continue to be wars. There will be more escalations, there will be more violence, and it will keep happening and it will never end. This is how it goes. And I wish it was not like that. And as I said, it applies there, it applies here, it applies everywhere. But again, what I said, we have to always consider the specifics, right? And just to say this, we have, like, for example, somebody in America may not understand this point very well, right? But if you are in a country that has thousands of years of history, chances are that you have thousands of years of grievances, right? Of conflict. And you can say, well, you remember that time 1,000 years ago when you stole sheep from our border villages? Yeah, about that, we will never forget it. Of course, I am now exaggerating, but the point is that if you have a long history, that's good in a sense, but it also means that you have more things to appeal to in your claims of saying that you are the side that is being mistreated. So we want to be considerate of that as well. Quashor says, hi Prot, thanks for your work. You are welcome. I learned a lot from your videos and the blog posts, so good to know. Thank you. Let's see here. Up. It scrolled down. Where are we? Srinath's Odyssey says, I always feel behind in life when I see youngsters, often 4 or 5 years younger than me, achieve more than me. Any solution to change my mindset? If you observe nature, like right now it's springtime, and you pay attention to the flowers, you will see that there are some flowers that bloomed in early April. Some did it in March, even. Some did it in early April. Others will bloom in May. Which is the better flower? In a sense, that's not the correct question because they are all flowers. They are just blooming at different phases of their life. Those that bloomed in April, they are done. They are finished. Those that haven't bloomed yet, they still have springtime ahead of them, and they will bloom later. What I wrote in one of the poems I published recently is that the late bloomer, in this case a human, can only hope that there will be more springtime. So, of course, I don't mean to say that springtime is infinite and it doesn't matter when you bloom. Of course, it matters. And you can only hope that you have enough time ahead of you. But I wouldn't say then that this is necessarily a matter of mindset. Of course, I don't know the specifics. Like, I'm just reading a comment right now, which is like 4 lines long. But I don't know what are the specifics in your case. But just in abstract, I don't know if this is a matter of mindset or just a matter of how things happen. You just are going to bloom later than those early bloomers. And that in itself is neither good nor bad. It's just a fact of life and it happens. Don't worry about it. Just do your thing, commit to what you like, try your best at what you are doing, and things will fall in place. Like, if there is something to be said about the mindset, it is this: always do things in earnest. Don't fool around. Don't try to trick yourself. Don't try to fool yourself. Don't try to fake it. Do it to the best of your abilities. And if you are doing it to the best of your abilities, then chances are that you are doing it right. Chances are that you will find success, whatever success means. Or at least you are improving those chances. Because if you are not trying, then the chances are basically ever diminishing. This is the idea. But comparison is never helpful. Comparison is not good because you are comparing different things. Like, you cannot compare two people directly because you have to reduce their lives to basically be the same life. And because they have different lives, different experiences, different trajectories, you are comparing different things fundamentally. So just take it easy, stick to what you are doing, be the best version of yourself, respect others, but also respect yourself in trying in earnest, and take it from there. Let's see here. Manu Moreno 99 says, "Hi Prot, nice to catch you live online." Hello there. I've been a follower for some time and really appreciate all that you do. Thank you. In fact, last night I was playing with your function that resets the face of comments. So yeah, that's good. And yeah, I'm happy that you found that helpful. And good luck playing around with Emacs and learning more things. For me, it's fun. Hopefully, it's the same for you too. Let's see. Fun Freaky says, Thanks for the answer about pinned tabs. You're welcome. Yes, I also suffer from that problem. That's why I asked. I don't use Emacs yet, only manual notes in Obsidian, but I will try the workflow you described. Just to be clear, Emacs in itself doesn't really do anything for you. And I would generalize this as saying the tool is not the workflow. You have a workflow and the tool facilitates the workflow. So you have to think in terms of what is your approach? What are you doing? What kind of method you are following? And then the question is, are you methodical? Are you consistent in applying that method? If you are consistent, then that's good. So that could be Emacs, that could be Obsidian, it could be pen and paper. It doesn't really matter. What matters is that each tool basically provides different opportunities. Whether you need those opportunities will depend on what you are trying to do. But never fall into this marketing gimmick, which is like, here is this magical app and it will fix all your problems. Nonsense. It won't. And if you have that mindset, you will just find new problems for yourself. And then while you are experiencing those problems, you will be daydreaming of the next magical app, which will also promise to fix those problems. So take a step back, focus on the basics, focus on the workflow, on what you are trying to achieve, and take it from there. This is the idea. But of course, Emacs is what I use, and I think it is good, but it is good in this sense that I have described. So let's see. BoardBits says, thank you for great answers. You're welcome. So, Toasted Beans says, do you recommend org-roam usage for project management? So I'm not sure what exactly you mean by project management. If you mean tasks like to-dos and that sort of thing, you probably don't need org-roam. Like regular org would suffice. But maybe you can tell me more about project management, and I'm happy to expound on the specifics. But otherwise, Org-Roam, of course, is a good package. It has a strong community. There will be a lot of resources about it. So picking Org-Roam is fine. The question is, what are you working towards? And this connects to what I was saying earlier, which is, what is your method? What is your workflow? What are you trying to achieve? And if you tell me more about project management, it will be easier for me to say more as well. So Carnimux says, thanks for making the greatest theme in the world, Modus Vivendi. You are welcome. I think it is a good theme as well, and kudos to the developer, which is me, of course. But it's a good theme, yes, it's fine. I like the Modus themes, of course. I like all my themes. They have different qualities, different design goals, and they are good for what they set out to do. And this connects to what I was saying earlier. Just as with your projects, what are you working towards? Like the Modus themes are good for what they set out to do, for what they are working towards. If they have no clear goal, then they won't be good at it because it is inchoate, it is elusive, it is unclear. Let's see. Spam Champ says, Prot, do you think philosophy should be incorporated into politics? If so, how? If by politics you mean the day-to-day affairs of policy making, then I would say no, because when you deal with policy, when you deal with governance, you deal with specific things. And maybe philosophy helps you have a sense of the bigger picture, but you always need to work with the specifics. You really need to go to the details. You really need to understand the specifics. Like you asked me earlier about the conflict in Kashmir, the escalation between Pakistan and India. And I cannot give you a philosophical answer to the specifics of what do we do right now in response to this very situation. Like, of course, it's philosophy will help you, but it will help you only in a very general way. It's like you have a civil engineering project, like you want to build a bridge, and you consult a philosopher. Hey, Prot, we should build a bridge. What must we do? And what the philosopher will say is something like, well, make it stable and good luck with that. Like, what else can the philosopher do? Like, you don't ask a philosopher what is the expertise of an engineer. Like, go to the engineer and take it from there, or the architect, or whoever is responsible for bridges anyway. Go to that person. And the same with politics. If it's the day to day stuff, you need to talk to the right people, and they need to have an understanding, an intimate understanding of the specific knowledge involved, of the details. Now, if we are talking about the study of politics, like political science, then of course it does incorporate philosophy. There is political theory, there are political philosophies, of course, and even in our political discussions, we have philosophical underpinnings to them. Like, if you consider something really basic, like what every society has, which is, for example, what is the role of males and females in society, for example, right? And in a sense, this is a very specific question. Like, there are details involved, right? So, in a sense, you answer it in a detail oriented way, in an engineering kind of way, okay? But there is also a general question, which is, well, what is the role of males and females in abstract? So, what is the kind of theory we have which informs the specific choices that we are making? So, of course, we see that policy, even when it comes down to the nitty gritty, is not devoid of theory. It's just where the focus is. Okay? So there's that. Let's see here. Jordi Amposta says, "Hi, Prot. Thanks for your videos. You are welcome. Lately, I switched to Corfu from company. So these are two Emacs packages, just in case somebody doesn't know. But I've noticed that sometimes Emacs crashes from that change. Have you noticed something like that? Is it possible?" Um, of course, in theory, anything is possible, right? It could be something wrong with the package, but I would be surprised if Corfu or company is the cause of the crash. Chances are that you also changed something else. Chances are that you also changed the completion at point functions. So the completion backends that Emacs is using to perform completion. And maybe somehow, I don't know what, in some interaction, one of those backends is causing a problem, and is what you experience in the form of the crash. But yeah, it's hard to know without looking at the specifics. But I would say try to isolate the problem. Try to write a simpler configuration, which basically has Corfu or company, and try to work with that and see if Emacs still crashes. And then you will be able to know. Because right now, it could be any number of things. Let's see. Further down, we have Gabriel here says, "What are your thoughts on locality? It's Mediterranean climate. Is the Mediterranean climate better for living than other climates?" I don't know. I don't know if the Mediterranean climate is better for living because, of course, people adapt, right? And they are pretty good at adapting to all sorts of climates. Like, if you think about people, there are people who live in places where it's extremely cold, and people who live in places where it's extremely warm, and everything in between. There are people who live in dry climates. There are people who live in humid climates. So I don't think that there is such a thing as the best climate, one which is better for living than other climates. And my guess would be that diversity in terms of climate may in some way be feeding into diversity in terms of culture, diversity in terms of sensitivities, diversity in terms of what we prioritize and how we see the world, which I think ultimately is enriching. It is nice to see different perspectives. It is nice to understand the diversity of the world through the diversity of our specific perspectives, through the diversity of our experiences. And I think we wouldn't be able to do that if we all subscribed to kind of a monoculture, and if we could somehow make that at the level of the climate. Of course, maybe I'm speculating now and there is no connection whatsoever between locality and culture, but I suspect there is. But yeah, there is that. So Amu says, how do you deal with wild and dangerous animals around your huts, like snakes and spiders, or even wolves and mountain tigers? So where I live, snakes are, of course, a threat. There are, I think, three types of viper, of venomous snakes, of venomous snake in Cyprus. Last year, there was actually a snake that somehow got in my room because I think I left the door a little bit open. And my dog Atlas managed to neutralize it. And then I intervened and I removed it. But yeah, that was dangerous, of course, because a venomous snake, if it bites you, you die. Like you have to go get treated right away. Otherwise, you die within a few hours. Like there is no question about that. So yeah, that is really dangerous. We don't have venomous spiders, as far as I'm aware, but maybe there are. But I haven't actually seen a venomous spider. So maybe there are, and I just haven't seen one. So I would say spiders are not a threat where I am. Snakes, yes. Spiders, no. But even snakes, if you keep the land clear, if you make sure that the snake doesn't have somewhere to hide and it doesn't slither unnoticed in under the grass or the rocks or whatnot, then basically the snake will not come near because they are afraid of people, actually. So, of course, snakes are dangerous, but let's not forget that humans are by far the most dangerous animal on the planet, bar none. All of them combined, they are nothing compared to how dangerous humans are. Okay, so of course they are afraid of us as well. Other animals, wolves, mountain tigers, we don't have those animals here. The largest land predator here is the red fox. And the red fox is like a cat. It's basically, yeah, this size about, okay? And basically, it's not a threat at all. Of course, it's afraid of people. But even if you were to somehow be confronted and be face to face with a fox, it still is not a threat. Like, even if it bites you, it wouldn't harm you. Like, it has, of course, razor sharp teeth, but I think a dog is much more dangerous. Like, a dog such as Atlas is, of course, far stronger than a fox, far more potent in that regard. So, we don't have wolves, we don't have tigers, we don't have bears here. So there is that. If we did, then that would be a really different situation, of course. But even then, those animals are also afraid of people, and you can't deter them. You can deter them with dogs. Of course, you will need to have larger dogs, such as the Central Asian land races of dog. So you can have something like those types of dog, and then you can deter these large predators. If you have, like, let's say, 5 Central Asian Shepherd dogs, then of course this is like a big deal. Like a predator will think twice before preying on you because now they have to deal with 5 large dogs. So that's something that generally predators will avoid, and they will go for some easier prey. Of course, depending on what you have, like if you are a shepherd and you have like a 1,000 sheep, then of course you have something really valuable for the wolves or the bears or whatnot. So then you need to have that many more dogs to deter the predators, right? So that's the idea. Let's see. Islam here says, "Hi, Prot. Do you think developing a package to read, comment on, and edit docx or doc files would be valuable for Emacs?" I think if you do that, there will be a lot of people who will use it from day one, for sure. Like, if you have like a WYSIWYG editor in Emacs, like what you see is what you get, Yeah, I'm sure a lot of people will use that. But even if we ignore the WYSIWYG part, that what you see is what you get, and you have some way of editing those documents and then it being translated into the correct output, I think people will use that as well. Like, definitely, for sure. Like me, I don't deal with doc or docx files. I haven't dealt with these files in super long, in however many years. Um, but if I had to deal with them, I would rather do it from Emacs rather than have to use some other program like LibreOffice. Of course, right now I will use LibreOffice if I have to, no problem. But if I have Emacs and I can extend it to do what I want with those files, yeah, obviously that's a no-brainer. Let's see. Anup Anthony says, great to see you, Prod. Do you use a smartwatch? And the answer is no, I've never had one. I don't think I've ever had a watch in general. So maybe I did at some point, maybe when I was really young, but I would say no. I would say I haven't used a watch and I haven't used a smartwatch because I don't use watches. So there is that, but there is also the other thing, which is like, what would I even do with a smartwatch? Like, the phone I have, where is it? The phone I have here? I use it just for videos and phone calls. Like, if I do a video with my phone, basically that's it. Otherwise, it's for phone calls. So it's basically phone slash camera, and I don't use it for anything else. I have removed all the other apps from it, and it's basically super simple, super straightforward. And the idea for me is to not have something that is basically a source of distraction, not have something that I will be tinkering with. Like a smartwatch, I can see myself totally fiddling with it and be like, yeah, yeah, I am doing stuff. And I'm not saying that there are no good uses for it. I'm sure there are. But for me, having fewer sources of distraction is better. Like, I don't even want to have the potential of something good because it's also the potential for something bad. And by keeping it simple, I just remain more focused in what I am doing. And this also means that it's easier for me to disconnect from technology in general. Like my phone, just to say, doesn't have mobile internet. So if I am here, of course, I have the Wi-Fi, but otherwise it doesn't have internet. So if I go for a walk or if I work outside, even if I have my phone with me, I cannot use it to basically do online stuff. So I can only use it as a camera or as a phone. This is the idea. And basically, this means that I create a demarcation line between my digital work and my physical work, and there is no overlap. And that's great because I can focus on the work I am doing. And I think for me, that is empowering. Let's see. Toasted Beans says, thanks. You're welcome. I believe this is the comment about project management at Org Rome, right? So let's see. Like as in when you have recurring tasks in a project and want to link them to a resource file, given e.g. the need may change monthly, like needing more coffee this month, etc. So I would say yes, that sounds like a good use case of Org Rome, though it's not a requirement. You can do the same with regular org. Like you could do it with, for example, two files. One is your tasks file, another is your resources file. And in your tasks file, you create links to your resources file. Or you could even do it with one singular file where there is a top level heading about tasks. And inside of that, you have subheadings with the individual projects. And inside of that, subheadings with the individual tasks. And then you can decide if the reference material, the resources, are in a separate top level heading or subheadings of the given project. Like there are many ways you can go about it. There is no right or wrong, I would say. Like fundamentally, it's all right. What matters is, I think, consistency and kind of predictability. Like for me, a good workflow is one where I don't have to think where I put the stuff. If there is ambiguity, if there is like the chance that what I am searching for is in one of many places, for me that is bad. It's the sign that I have to streamline the workflow further, that basically I have to reduce it to one. Because if what I am searching for could be here but could plausibly be there or elsewhere, fundamentally I am just working against myself. I am setting myself up for failure because now I cannot retrieve what I need. So whatever you do, make sure you have that kind of predictability, that kind of consistency, and then that is what empowers you, and you take it from there. So Anup says, "Are we seeing?" Sorry, sorry. Let's see. Are we seeing the rest of your home soon? The answer is no. I have shown this room, so you have seen that video. It's public, and of course, I have shown the outside. There is still some more space to the house, but it's still under construction, so I don't want to show that. And I don't know if it even matters if I show the entire place. You can see basically how it is. And even now you can see, like, for example, over there, you see how the wiring is done. And it's simple. It's like a really simple place. Like, for example, this sort of thing. Like if you have like a house with bricks and mortar, that sort of thing, this sort of thing would be embedded in the wall. But of course here you cannot embed it in the wall. There is no wall. It's basically like a thin sheet of synthetic material. I could, of course, add something on top to cover it or whatever, but now I just have this thing that protrudes, and it's like a block that protrudes. So is that actually better? I don't think so. So I leave it like that. So yeah, there is that. There are two big projects for the house itself that I need to do. One is the waterproofing slash temperature proofing or warmth proofing or cold proofing or whatever. And the other is the floor. I need to improve the floor. Right now I am standing on concrete. The concrete that I did originally. I should, in principle, have another layer on top, which is, of course, insulation. It keeps the cold below, and so it's warmer when I have my feet on the ground. But also, it means that I can now have like a more comfortable type of material where it won't be like this hard ground like the concrete. It will be something a little bit softer. But I will work on that, yeah, eventually. It's not a priority, and I'm always working with my budget, and I'm always doing something little by little. This is the sort of thing that costs money, and thus it's not a priority, and it's not even feasible right now. So let's see. Let's see. Chuaib Ali. Yeah, I cannot pronounce it. Chuaib. No. Yeah, of course. Anyway. Sorry. Let's see. So, hi Prot. I can't find denote ID exists P in denote 4.0. Are there any alternatives? Generally, when we deprecate a function, we make sure to provide the alternative for it. So let me quickly check here. Denote and ID exists P. So it's not here. I will have to check the Git source because I don't remember this function now. There is a good chance that this was deprecated like a long time ago, and you are getting a warning that it is deprecated and it will be removed, and eventually you missed it, and so I removed it finally, and so now you got the problem. But if you go and check the denote git, this was removed at some point, but I'm sure we still have a function that does that. There is a function called denote has denoted file name, something like that. Search for that. Denote has denoted file name. And maybe if you see how that is used, you will also find something related to the identifier. But ID exists P. Yeah, I cannot remember if we have something like it right now. Let's say Julio Villasante says, "Hi, hey Prot, thanks for all your work. You're welcome. Are your Modus themes exporter still supported? Are there plans to support the F themes too?" So that was just a script I wrote like a really long time ago. And the idea was to just have something basic to export the Modus themes to other editors and terminal emulators, but I never worked on that. I don't know if I still have it in my dot files, the Modus themes exporter. Um, Maybe in the future I will write a program like Emacs Lisp, a package, to do that, but it's not a priority right now because I really only use Emacs. Like I don't use even a terminal emulator. I seldom use a terminal emulator to do anything. Like I don't have a need for something else. And of course, I don't use another text editor, so there is that. But if I were to write a package that does this export thing, I would make sure that it is sufficiently generic to work with all my packages, or more generally, to take in a palette and basically work with that. So basically have it as input, and then based on that input, you get the output, and maybe there is some convention of how the input should be like, and you take it from there. But yeah, this is not a priority right now. Let's see. Theo Pechli says, hello, Protesilae. So hello to you too. The fact that you wrote Protesilae suggests that you are a Greek speaker. So Yasu in that case. I would still get a rabies shot in case I was injured by a red fox or any wild animal, really, even dogs. So yes, of course, fair enough. Yes, peace and love, peace and love. So that, yes. I don't mean to say that there is zero risk for sure, but in terms of the physical threat, a red fox cannot overpower you. Like, and it won't even try. I would be really surprised if a fox tries to fight you. A fox will run away. I have actually encountered foxes a few times, and they just run away as fast as I can. And they are small, they are like a cat, but they are faster than a cat. And they have this fairy tail. They are cute, they are nice animals. And sometimes I will hear them howling. So of course, where I am, it's the wilderness, right? And I hear them howl, and I guess it's for mating. I guess, but I don't know. So it happens at different times of the year. It's not throughout the year, of course. But yeah, they are nice animals. And I forgot to say earlier that the land predator, the largest land predator wild animal, is the red fox. But if we talk about predators in general, that includes the birds of prey, then it would be the eagle. So the eagle is the largest predator here. So the eagle and then the owl. The owls are large as well, but I would say eagles are larger. But eagles, it's really amazing, folks. Like, eagles are, of course, a really capable predator, but they are not overpowering other birds. For example, on that side of the valley is the village, and on this side of the valley is the wilderness. Um, the eagles are on this side of the valley where the wilds are, and the crows are where the people are, or closer to the people, anyway. And if the eagle ever tries to go towards the land of the crows will drive the eagle away. A single crow can't drive an eagle away. Like, the crow is about 1/4 the size of an eagle, and yet you will see it attacking the eagle mid-flight. You will see it, and it's amazing. And the crow is like cra, cra, cra. You know, they do this sound. And of course, it is aggressive towards the eagle. And the eagle basically flies off and ascends to greater heights, and eventually the crow gives up. And if it's a really adult eagle, if it's a large eagle, there will be many crows attacking that eagle. So there is that. You don't want to mess up. You don't want to mess around with the crows. Eh, and all animals, of course, they are fascinating. The crows are very nice as well. Let's see what happened here. Where are we? Jordi says, do you think that it is possible to live with a Linux phone? I think that there is an Ubuntu version for phones. It depends, of course, on with what you are doing. Like in my case, I think yes. If it has a camera that works, and if it has a phone that works and can also send messages, for me, the answer is yes. But I remember when the pandemic happened and there was the requirement to have an app on your phone. And at the time, I didn't have a phone actually. And I remember how I was basically excluded by not having the app. So, for those kind of cases, a Linux phone would probably not be a good idea. But those are really the exceptions. I would say a Linux phone probably is okay depending on what you are doing. But other than that, you want to also have like a phone that really covers everything, because either we like it or not, there are requirements imposed upon us by forces that we do not control. So we have to conform with those requirements. There is that. Anup says, with a smartwatch, curious to know your resting heart rate with your walking. So I don't have exact numbers right now, but I would guess it is around 50 per minute, maybe even lower. So that would be my resting heart rate. When I'm walking, of course, it will be a bit higher, but not too high. And of course, this has to do with my fitness. I have been active and fit basically since forever. Like I was playing football semi-professionally, in case you don't know. I didn't become a professional because of an injury, which happened at an inopportune moment, and basically I was derailed. I didn't have the means to do a surgery and recover and all that. So basically, end of career there. But the point is that I retained my athletic lifestyle, and I am very disciplined with my food. Like, I basically tolerate no cheating days. This is the idea. So I say I will not eat something. For example, I don't consume sweets. I don't eat ice cream, for example. And when I say it, I just say it like it's finished. Like I won't have. Like Easter happened some weeks ago, and I was invited to an Easter family gathering of some people further up the village, further up the mountain. And I attended the meeting, and it was very nice, and we had a good time. Um, at the table, they served, the first thing was to serve alcohol. And I used to drink alcohol, but I quit. It's been many years. And I was like, no, I don't want alcohol. So that is finished. Water for me. They had some foods that I don't eat. They had sweets and stuff. So I was like, no sweets, zero. And basically, I didn't eat it. So a combination of my activity levels and my dietary habits means that I am in a good state. And generally, stamina is kind of my characteristic. Like when I was playing football, if you were to basically classify people, athletes, into strong, fast, technical, and tenacious, I would be tenacious. Of course, now, not to say that I am just tenacity and zero technique or strength or speed, right? Of course, but I'm just trying to basically give you an overview. So I would be on the tenacity side. Like that is really my strong point. And then the others would follow from there. Of course, tenacity is a form of strength if you think about it, because if I can keep doing the same thing over and over again, like 1,000 more times than somebody else can, then eventually it still has potency to it. Like I think, for example, when I was breaking the bedrock back there, when I was doing the flat control project, I actually broke it again recently. I had to do more work there. Um, if I was really strong, I would maybe be able to break it with like 1 or 2 hits. But if I didn't have enough stamina, maybe 2 hits is all I could do. Okay, let's imagine. But now that I have a lot of stamina, even though 1 or 2 hits are not enough, well, I will be hitting it for 30 minutes or more. So eventually, of course, it collapses. So that is the idea. I break it. So yeah, there is that. Let's see. Let's see some response to Jordi about the Linux phone, right? So I doubt it, considering that very few, if any, banking apps work on them. So yeah, actually, that's a big one. Like, if you want to do anything related to the world we live in, you have to have a phone that has access to all the apps you need. And this is kind of what I had in mind when I said that there are requirements imposed upon us by forces that we do not control. So there is that. Of course, you may be able to do all your banking online and then you just have a two-factor authentication. So maybe you can work around it, but then you are just making your life more difficult. So it depends on what your priorities are and where you want to draw the line. But fundamentally, I don't think you can go full Linux on everything and just have some life that will work. I don't think that will be possible. Let's see. Morten says, where do you announce your live streams? I only discovered this one by chance. Uh, generally, generally, everything I do, I publish it on my website. So that is the source of truth. And me, I don't publish anything anywhere else. Like, the video is on YouTube, and that's what it is. It's the video hosting platform for me. And then all the publications are on my website, including the publication for this video, which is on my website, and the video is embedded there. I have never posted any of my posts of my publications elsewhere, on Reddit, on social media, or whatever. I don't have social media. I do have a Reddit account, but I don't remember when was the last time I logged into Reddit. So there is that. Because for me, part of what I am doing is that I want my publications to be driven from within. Like, there is an inner need to express myself, and I don't want to fall in the trap of having a target audience, of like testing what people want and then giving them that and then doing that. Of course, not to say that I never do what people like, because of course we just have coinciding interests. Like, I am interested in Emacs, you are interested in Emacs, for example, right? So there is that. But just to say that I prefer to focus on my side, where I just publish on my website, and well, whoever notices it and whoever reads it and whoever joins, it doesn't matter, because my goal was to express myself rather than to seek an audience. Because if my goal is to seek an audience, then imagine that I don't get enough comments. Then I will consider it a failure, for example. Or this actually happens with my publications, with my writings. Like, rarely I will get a reply which is substantive, like a comment which is substantive. It seldom happens. Usually I get no feedback at all, and maybe I will get feedback such as what we had here in this chat, which will be like, hey Prot, I read your blog, thank you, and I learned a lot from it, that sort of thing. You are welcome, so that's great, and I'm happy to help. But you see that my expectation was for me to express myself, for me to put it out there, and not the feedback that I will get. Because if my expectation was about the feedback, I would always be miserable, because I would never get any feedback. And then I would become kind of a seeker of the feedback. And now, instead of expressing myself, I am role playing. And I'm trying to find ways to fish for the feedback. And I think that's now a game that I'm not interested in playing or participating in. Up. Let's see. Sorry. What happened? What happened? Where are we? What do you think about the para method for task management? So para, I think it's the projects, areas, resources, and something else, right? Um, I haven't used it, so I cannot say much about it. From what I understand, the idea is good, but then again, every methodology, once it is kind of thought through, is good, right? What matters is what are your specific requirements? Like maybe, like, sorry, what are your specific requirements? One, and two, how does your brain work? Like there are different types of brain, and this I have seen it a lot, right? And if you try to work in a way that doesn't make sense for your brain, you will just not have a good result. So maybe you are at a stage where you need to experiment. So try it and see how it works for you. But I wouldn't say that there is such a thing as a one size fits all. I wouldn't say that there is such a thing as the method, the workflow that basically we should all be doing because of the differences we have. So Toasted Bean says, okay, thank you. You are welcome. I believe that is about org Rome and project management. So let's see here. Ovi Stoika says, hey, Prot, I'm curious if you use any AI like GPTL in your day-to-day workflows to complete AI workflows inside Emacs. Also, what is your opinion on the latest AI Emacs libraries? So me, I don't use anything. I've never used it actually myself. I have only used it as part of the coaching I do. I have only used it with other people, help them set it up, configure it, try things out, look at the source code, try to read the code to get something out of that because we are trying to learn Emacs Lisp and whatnot. So that sort of thing. But in terms of me using it, no, I haven't used it. And maybe you haven't watched this, but what I was saying earlier basically is that I don't use it, but not because I am against AI. Okay, I have nothing against it. I don't use it because I simply don't have a use for it. That's the one thing. And two, for me, part of the fun, and I emphasize the word fun, part of the fun is to discover things. Like I write some code, I want to solve a problem, right? And I write some code, and basically there is something that I am missing and I need to figure it out. And for me, that is really fun. So of course I could ask the AI and say, hey, okay, how do we solve this, right? And get the answer and move on with life. But for me, the answer is not really the point. For me, the discovery process is the fun part. The what I do, the work I do to grow the capacity for solving that problem. For me, that is fun, and I really enjoy doing it. I haven't kept up. I haven't kept up with the latest libraries for AI. So I only see them like Sasha Chua has this weekly newsletter, and I read it always, of course, and I follow the RSS feeds and all that. So I read about them, but I've never used any, so I cannot say much. GPTL, of course, works fine, so that would be a good place to start. But I don't know how others measure up, and if this is the gold standard or if something else is the gold standard. Like I really don't know. Let's see. Yogi says, hi, Prot. I have a question about forgiveness. Should a terrorist group be forgiven without any trial in the name of prosperity and to put the bad blood behind? Is that fair? And for the matter, do you think is the correct way to move forward? The way you frame it, of course, I would say, why would you forgive terrorists? Why would you not bring terrorists to justice? And yes, sure, terrorists should be punished, and terror should not be how we solve our problems. Yes, but terrorism does not exist in a vacuum. Like why are even terrorists there? Like, what is there for there to be terrorists? Because normal people will not just wake up one day and be like, you know what I will do in life? I will become a terrorist. Like, maybe there are some people who will do that, yes, but generally there is something there and there is a history there. And I think it helps if we try to understand that history as well. Punish the terrorists, yes, but not punish an entire people because of the actions of some renegade group or some terrorists. So, of course, now we are talking in general, right? So we need to look into the specifics again, right? But I would say that the punishment of terrorists and the punishment of a people as a whole are two different things. So we have to be careful with how we go about it, delivering justice. That granted, some terrorists will get away with it. Like in the same way, some Nazis fled Nazi Germany and were not punished in the Nuremberg trials. But the post World War II order still delivered justice while not punishing the German people in an odious way that would basically destroy them. There is still a German people, the Germans are still around, they are doing fine, but the Nazis did get punished. So, of course, we have to look into the details and we have to consider that. Forgiveness, though, is a little bit different because forgiveness and justice are separate magnitudes. For me, forgiveness, the way I understand it, is about how I feel towards you. Have I let go? For example, somebody does me some injustice, and then the courts or whatever punishes that person, and that person is now serving their punishment. Have I gotten over it? Have I let go? Or do I still cling on to it and I'm like, I will never forgive you? Because that is what forgiveness is basically me carrying that burden. Forget about the other person. The other person may not exist anymore. Like there are people who will badmouth others who are even dead. Like, oh, I remember your relative. 50 years ago, he stole from me this little thing over here, and I will never forget that. And you cling on to that. And what is the point of that? It's not about justice, it's about you. You are carrying that burden. So I think we should be able to let go of those burdens, yes. And justice is separate. It should be done as well. So Kostas Smaragdakis, so Yasu Kostas says, hello, Protesilas from Samos. So it's nice to know that you are in Samos. And of course, hello from Cyprus. I'm still here. Let's see. Ovi says, I'm very curious. If you ever struggled with weight issues or food, given your current food discipline, and where did this discipline come from? So shortly after my injury, like for a couple of years, I did gain weight. So I don't know how heavy I am now, but just the eye test, I would say I am around 65 to 70 kilos, but basically it's my natural weight. It's like, it's not overweight, which is just visually how I looked when I was playing football. So for me, basically, that is kind of the comparison. So the way I looked when I was an athlete, basically, I look the same now. So I would say that I am more or less the same in terms of weight. Maybe I am a bit heavier because, of course, I am a full-grown adult, whereas back then I was still a teenager. Shortly after my injury, and for a couple of years, I started gaining weight, which of course happens because when you play sports, when you do sports, you burn a lot of calories, but you also take in a lot. Like I would eat a lot. And because my activity after the injury, of course, dropped considerably, I would still eat a lot, but now I wasn't expending any of that. I wasn't burning any of that. So eventually I did gain weight. But I lost it, and I did it consciously. Like the food discipline, which you are talking about. When I was still playing football, I kind of had the food discipline, but it wasn't as rigorous as it is now. Like I would basically go for some junk food, and I would eat that from time to time. I would have an ice cream, I would eat a chocolate, and so on. But following the weight gain after post injury, I decided to basically cut it from the root. And I remember that in 2006, almost 20 years ago, I vowed to never eat junk food. So I was like, you know what? Junk food is over, finished. I will not try it again. And at the time, I was still eating junk food. Of course, I was a student. It was easy. It was convenient. And I was like, you know what? I won't do it, and I will learn to cook. And I knew a little bit to cook, but I will learn better. I mean, so I did that, and I completely eliminated the junk food from my diet. I completely eliminated soft drinks, so-called soft drinks like Coca-Cola and stuff. All those I eliminated them from my diet, and gradually all the sweets, and eventually with alcohol I did the same. Of course, I don't mean to say that, oh, it's a mortal sin if you have, let's say, an ice cream or you drink a glass of wine or whatever. I don't mean to say that. But what I am saying is that consistency is important, because if you basically give yourself the license to cheat, it's hard to know where the limit is, because this is something I said earlier in the stream where I was talking about the feedback loop and where the limits are, where is the terminus. And like, what is the limit? Like, let's say I start eating sweets, I start eating chocolates. How much is too much? Like, of course, eventually you develop some health problem, right, down the line, but you cannot know it until you have the problem. So it's hard to basically draw the boundaries because you don't have enough information. The feedback is not there. So it's easy to overdo it. And that's why we are all overdoing it. And that's why it's hard to basically impose constraints, because the constraints, you have to draw them. Like, if you just feel it, you don't feel it. That's the thing. And this applies to sweets, it applies to junk food, it applies to basically everything. Of course, there still are some limits. Like with alcohol, like if you start drinking alcohol, if you are not used to it, you will get drunk quickly. Let's say you have 2 glasses of wine, now you are drunk. But once you start drinking alcohol, the 2 glasses will quickly become 2 bottles of wine. And then, of course, the 2 bottles, yeah, you get the idea. You become more and more, and you are just now drinking more, and basically you don't know where to stop. So yeah, there is that. Let's see. Board Bits says, do you host the server for your website yourself, or do you have a service provider for that? I am reluctant to expose things from my home network myself, but would be interested to hear your solution. So in my case, I am hosting it somewhere else. I don't have any home server for anything, because one, I don't have the expertise. I haven't looked into the specifics. And two, more importantly, I don't have electricity all day long. Like, I use solar panels with batteries, so it's an off-grid system. And basically, when the night comes, after a while, I don't have electricity. This is the idea. And part of that is because one of my batteries is faulty, so I need to fix that as well. But anyway, the point is that I could not have a server here, even if I wanted to, and even if I knew how to do it. Let's see. Yogi says, thanks for the insights. I've a follow-up question. What if the serving justice to the terrorist group would be interpreted as an attack on the whole group, since they seem as their saviors? So, of course, it depends on how you do it. Like, let's think about how the Americans dealt with Germany, let's say, or after World War II, or the Allies in general, dealt with Germany after World War II. Of course, they punished the Nazis, yes, but they didn't just stop there. They also, the Americans, had the Marshall Plan, which, of course, in a sense, was basically tit for tat. It was like, well, I am punishing your transgressors, but here is something to show you that I am acting in good faith. And I am not here to basically obliterate the Germans because I am obliterating the Nazis, right? So you can still make a distinction. You can still have a multi-pronged approach, and you can still do it, but it has to be concrete. Like, it cannot be just fancy words like, hey, just stop fighting and then we will fix everything. Like, I don't think that works, because that is just an empty promise. You see how that would go, right? So I don't think that will eventually resolve any conflict in practice. um, of course, depending on what we are talking about, you may not be able to convince people decisively, right? So depending on what we are talking about, some level of conflict will be inevitable. Like in the case of the Nazi regime, of course, we had World War II, right? They didn't just leave peacefully. So I don't entertain the illusion. I don't want to give the impression that, oh, we should just talk and peacefully resolve everything. Like, that is, of course, the best course of action, but sometimes it's not a course of action that is tenable. So we have to work with what we have. And if conflict is unavoidable, well, let's at least try to keep our humanity in perspective and not give in to our most base propensities and go to the extreme of obliterating an entire people. So it's a matter of if we can exercise that restraint. It's not easy, of course, and there are plenty of examples in history where there was no such restraint. And the hope is that we learn from history and we don't repeat the same mistakes over and over, and instead we act in a way that is a little bit more informed, a little bit more enlightened, if you will. So actually, this is the end of the comments here, folks. And I noticed that it is 20 past 5, which means that I have been talking nonstop for 3 hours and 20 minutes, to the point of what we were saying earlier about stamina and tenacity and all of that. So I could keep going, but the chat has stopped. So if that is the case, this is a good place to stop. But I will give it another minute in case anybody has any final question. And if there are no questions, then I just call it a day. It was fun. I had a good time. Thank you for all your questions, and thank you for your time. And maybe I will do this again, but I don't know when. To the point of what I was saying earlier about having like a target audience or seeking the feedback and the validation and all that. I don't want to basically have live streams that are on a regular basis. I prefer for it to be spontaneous and happen when the circumstances are right for it to happen. And if it's once every 3 months, that's good. If it's once a year, that's good. If it's once a week, well, that's also good. So you are welcome, folks. You are welcome. So I think we have reached the natural end. So I will just call it a day now. And yeah, that's good. So thank you for your time. Let me see, where is the button to close the stream? Let's see. So take care, folks. And I am closing now. Okay, so goodbye to everybody and end of stream. Bye bye. What is said?